Hey, Joe.
Anna, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay.
You, thank you for the webinar last week.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, it was fun. I'm always extra critical of myself. I was thinking about things I could do differently, or like I used to be a
you do?
Toastmaster, so I always catch my ums and ahs and things like that. So yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was. I enjoyed it.
Hey, Michael. Hi, Kim.
Hi, how you doing? I got a lot of background, so I'm
Oh, I know. I figured as much, but I just want to make sure, like every now and then.
Laundry day.
Yeah. I don't know if it's my if my sound's on or not. So I usually do that to check. So no worries. Yeah, and I think for these, since we're doing them back to back and with little notice, people will probably trickle in a little later. But hopefully.
Today, you mean?
Yeah. Like I've doing this series where we're doing them back to back. Like I usually do once a month, so it's a little different. So yeah, so I have no idea whether we're going to get a lot of people or a few because it only got 7 days notice.
Yeah, that's right.
It looks like everybody's coming just before.
Good morning.
Hey, Larry.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. This is Mike.
Hey, Michael. How you doing?
Great, thanks. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Good. Good to see you too.
Good morning.
Hey, Sally.
Oh, I love Kim's. Is that a llama?
It's actually in Nepal. It's one of the donkeys / burros that lives up in the Khumbu.
Oh, okay. Beautiful.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
Hey, Oren, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, but I'll get better.
Good.
How is everyone?
I'm doing great for a Saturday.
Oh, yes. For Saturday.
This is a Saturday? I thought this was Wednesday.
No, this is Saturday, sweetheart.
You sure?
Joe, how did office hour go? Sorry, I just got back.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, no one showed up, but that's fine. Yeah, and I mentioned it in I mentioned it in the email that I sent out. So I'll announce it during the class.
Okay, excellent.
Figured that out.
There we go. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Since we've all, this series of meetups is only like a week advance notice. So people are trickling in. I have no idea whether it's going to be a lot or a few. So we'll give it a couple more minutes before we get started. But let's do this while we're waiting. Last time, introductions took a lot of our time. So let's get started on time with the introductions. And then as people come in, we'll just add them to the end of the list. And then we'll get started. And that way we can focus more on some hands-on and some of the details. All right, Michael, why don't you start us off? Let me pop up the slides so you can see, again, this is an abbreviated list that we want to go through today. So let me just, I'll fire up the.
Oh, Lynn's here. Hey, Lynn.
Howdy.
Yeah,
Good morning.
so for our speed introductions today, I'd like you to just introduce yourself, how long you've been with WordPress, and then settle a debate for me. It's holiday season, so I need to know whether you prefer holiday cakes, holiday pies, or holiday cookies. All right, so with that, let's start with Sally.
Okay. Morning, everyone. I started WordPress in August 2020, then pivoted to accessibility. Now I'm moving back into everything I need to know about WordPress, and I love cookies, holiday cookies.
Awesome. All right. Lynn, hey, welcome. Good to see you again, or hear from you again in the virtual space.
What did he say? Big pie and cookies.
Lynn, yeah, Lynn, if you don't mind, Lynn, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit how long you've been in WordPress, and then whether you prefer holiday cakes, pies, or cookies. Lynn Nashihara.
Hi there. I've been in WordPress since, well, the lockdown. So I guess that's 2020. I haven't done anything with it, but I've attended classes. And I think that's a tough one. I want to go with pie only because I made a sweet potato pie that turned out pretty good.
Oh, awesome. And then there's always a debate between pumpkin versus sweet potato. Is there a debate in your household which one you prefer, or you like?
I prefer sweet potato.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it came out really, really well.
Oh,
Oh,
do you
good.
want to share your recipe?
I didn't use one.
Ah,
It was all ad hoc, but it
Oh,
came
wow.
out really, really well.
Wow. That's good. All right. Next up is Michael. Welcome back, Michael. Michael is, for those that don't know, Michael joined for the first time. This is his first meetup. And during the week, Mike went out and he spun up a site with the 5-minute install. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, it was very exciting. I went with SiteGround, and I think I said that right. And it's been, just got it going, got an email set up and all that kind of good stuff. But looking forward to this week. I am, I guess, could say the second week here, and then for Sally reminded me of cookies, and I have really fond memories of all the cookies we used to get as kids going out to the neighbors. So I got to go with cookies.
Oh, nice. Like I really enjoy gingerbread, but I only really eat them at Christmas time. So,
Yeah.
so awesome. All right.
sorry. Hey, so Michael, can I ask you, did you do it on WordPress.org or WordPress.com?
I guess on WordPress.org, I was going down the route of .com, and then just with so I'm still in the need to get a plug. I think I got plugins in there, but I think I'm .org at this point. We'll see.
That's correct. Yeah. So, and today, that's part of today's lesson. We're going to talk about, once we're going to go back and recap what we did last week really briefly. I'll show you a couple of other examples of a quick 5-minute installs, and then we're going to talk about how do you choose a theme? How do you choose plugins? And I'll give you some best practices on that. Because again, what generally happens and what I always sort of recommend for folks is like, let's start this class with a blank slate, and then we'll go step by step. And then at the end, hopefully you'll have the tools you'll need to make decisions on plugins and things of that nature.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right. So Betty and Oren, why don't you guys take a turn and introduce yourselves and settle the debate over holiday treats for us. You're muted. Oh, hold on. Let me see
Oh,
here.
there we are.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'm Oren, and this is Betty, my beautiful wife, who we do things. I guess I've been with WordPress. WordPress has been with me for probably 15 years, but I really don't know. I forget stuff, that short memory. And I just enjoy trying to learn. And I tore down all my sites. I had about 12 sites a couple of weeks ago. And I left SiteGround and went over back to GoDaddy just as the landing page and trying to go with Divi and build my own sites. I'm good, but I just have the thing. And being a Jehovah's Witness, every day is a holiday. And my favorite food, I guess my favorite, if you really want to know, is Betty's least favorite. So I get a lot of German chocolate cake.
Oh, okay.
He hates it.
All right. Well, Betty, why don't you, Betty, go ahead, chime in and give us your favorite. I'm sure it's probably opposite if you're anything like me and my wife. Our tastes are all over the place too.
Well, I'm Oren's wife, and I've been working with WordPress for quite some time. And then I stopped for a long period of time, and I'm just starting to reacquaint myself. I have, in the past couple of days, went to GreenGeek.
Oh, okay.
And I I installed WordPress using what is that, Superlicious or
Oh,
something?
Soft Delicious, Soft Delicious.
Soft
Okay.
Delicious.
Uh-huh.
And now I am completely lost
Okay.
on what I've done. So I said, maybe I need to uninstall, reinstall. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. So,
But anyway,
oh, go ahead. And then go ahead, finish. I'm sorry to interrupt.
anyway, I just enjoy desserts anytime.
Okay.
In fact, I think
So
I'll
you're
go
not
make
into
one.
like the holiday cookies with the icing and
No,
special seasonal stuff?
no, I
Okay.
eat dessert
all day.
all year.
All right, great. All right, well, thanks, and then welcome back. And what we'll try to do, again, before each session, and I did it today, and I just mentioned it in the email notice that I sent out to the group, a half hour before the meetup start, we'll have open office hours. So come back then, and then we'll, like you had a specific problem, Oren had we can sort of address those then and try to get those resolved. And then by the
Okay.
time we get to next week, we'll catch you up and then we'll get going that way.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Anna, we're going to do it out of order. Anna, please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna from GreenGeeks. And what was I supposed to say? I forgot.
Oh, just introduce yourself, how long you've been with
Okay.
WordPress, and then settle the dessert, the holiday dessert.
Oh, okay.
Cakes, pies, or cookies.
I'm the WordPress community director at GreenGeeks. Been in WordPress for 3-4 years, not a long time. I think it's not a long time. And I like panettone. Being Italian, that's my dessert for holidays.
Why don't
Sorry.
you just describe what that is for someone that doesn't know what that is?
It's a fruit cake. It's
Oh.
a big fruit cake with little dry fruit, panettone.
Okay. I've seen that definitely on, my wife is into the holiday cookie challenges and all that stuff that's on the Cookie
You
Network.
seen it?
So yeah, so someone made that, what you were talking about, as one of the challenges. All right, awesome. All right, Lance, unmute and introduce yourself, please. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lance. I am a graphic designer from West Haven, Connecticut. And I make websites for people, so I'm sort of here to learn.
Okay. What's your level of expertise with WordPress? Do you have a site? Are you trying to fix it? Are you trying to start from scratch?
I've
Where you
made
at?
a couple sites in my history, but I don't consider myself advanced by any stretch of the imagination.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Kim was first in today, and welcome back.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm monitoring a little something in the background, which I can't reach this second. So hi.
Oh, and that's fine. We don't mind. That happens.
It's a little summit I've been listening to all morning, but it's across the room. I'm in WordPress. All these install levels I got to skip because I inherited a couple sites. I've played around myself installing and have really gotten so stuck and confused because everybody has different recommendations. And I actually had a WordPress class where it was a completely different assignment. I was supposed to just create it from scratch. So I've had a lot of fun and love how you demo the foolproof ways through here. So thank you so much. Looking forward to today.
Oh, awesome. Well, and welcome back. But go ahead. If you're, it sounds like you're distracted. So if you don't want to answer the dessert challenge question.
Oh, the dessert? No, I just apologize that you have to listen to this.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
I listen to two things all the time. So, so Lynn was my favorite as a sweet potato pie fan. So, and I would probably make my own too. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's
For me,
indeed.
what I really enjoy, like my wife and her mom, my wife has her mom's recipe, which is totally different from the type of sweet potato sweet potato pie I grew up eating. So now I have two favorites. So that's the best thing about holiday pies, because every recipe is a little different. So you get a little bit of that person's personality when you try their pie.
I would love to try it with Japanese sweet potatoes. It would
Ooh, that's nice.
Orange, but those are the best potatoes out there. So.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. And then to address another thing you said, I think in terms of my approach, and for those that are new with us today, I've sort of had a lot of weird experience. I shouldn't say weird, but a lot of varied experiences in WordPress. Like I was on WordPress VIP, which is sort of the high end of hosting, and I had to learn a certain way, and I've done it myself, and I learned from other people. So what I try to offer is I'm sort of a bare bones minimum, get it up and running so I can focus on writing kind of person. So and last week we sort of highlighted how some folks like to get in and build things themselves, get their hands dirty. And then there's some people that just want it to work and they want to get into it and start writing right away. So I'm on the easy end. So that's how I'm going to present. And your level may be more advanced, but again, I want everyone to sort of understand that this is for the beginners in WordPress. And these are simple, easy ways that get you up and running right away, guaranteed. All right. So
that some of us don't know or haven't had that step. So
yeah, and it may trigger something in your memory that you learned and you can share with the group. It's about everyone sort of pitching in their ideas. And so it may help someone that has a question or a problem similar to what you had when you got started or when you resolved an issue. So that's sort of how we do it. All right. Larry, welcome back.
Hey everybody, how are you today? Happy holidays and all that stuff. And Lauren, I agree, every day is a holiday. Always. Yes, indeed. I've been in WordPress. I knew about it for a long time, but I started getting, really into it when Lynn and I started coming to these Zoom meetups, to learn about accessibility. And that's kind of the direction I'm going, just, in the web in general. And I'm kind of into content, and I'm a musician and writer, so I'm, working towards building music websites eventually. But right now I've been wrapped up in actually creating music with the guys who I'm working with. So I've been pretty busy, with that, writing new music, writing new songs. So my head's kind of in that trippy creative headspace right now of creating songs and music and all of that. And the great dessert debate. Well, I've never really met a dessert that I don't like, but I do have to say, when it comes down to it, it's all about the pie. It's all about the pie, and there's no debate under our roof. It's all about the sweet potato pie. And I will attest to the fact that this last sweet potato pie that Lynn made completely, totally kicked butt. It was awesome. It was amazing. And I hope we're going to have another one soon. But I'm going to make a pie. I'm going to be making a custard pie, so I'm going to be the next pie maker. Probably tomorrow night's going to be my night to make the custard and do the custard pie. It's a joint effort. We work together on it.
I don't know, maybe you should TikTok it or put it up on YouTube so we can follow along and try to replicate the recipe.
We'll see about that. But yeah, it's all about the sweet potato pie.
Yeah, and those that don't know, at our WordCamp last summer, Larry did our music intros. So in between the sessions, you heard Larry and his band perform. So that was really appreciated. It was an awesome contribution from Larry.
It was a lot of fun, and we appreciated being a part of the whole thing. Contemplating Waves, that's the name of the band. For now, it could change. Some, the other guys are kind of they're not as into the name as I am. So we'll see what happens.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you mentioned this site since I've known you in the community. Do you have a host currently, or do you have a site and you just want to change it? How do you come to WordPress, and what kind of site would you like to build with WordPress?
Well, we have our music in a couple places. There's Russ. He's the other guitar player I play with. He has a Bandcamp page, and I have a page at indiemusicpeople.com. The indiemusicpeople.com page is ancient, and it's a horrible website, and it has major accessibility issues. They allow us to host a lot of music there. I've got a lot of music and a lot of pages there, but it's a very ugly website, and I don't like it one bit. And my intention is to eventually, build, our website from scratch, a website, a WordPress site. I have some WordCamp.com going on, WordPress.com going on right now, but I'd like to get into the .org and get hosting, separate from the .com people, and do our own hosting and build the site completely from scratch.
Okay.
So that's the direction we're going. We're going to have our own website built from scratch, and I'm probably going to be the one building it because Russ does all the sound mixing, and he's always talking about how he spends 30 hours on this and 40 hours on that, and like sometimes we yell at him and we should pay him, and when we yell at him, and you know, so I think I'm going to be like the web guy for this.
That'll be your
man.
extra
Drummer.
contribution.
He just plays drums.
You know, back in the day, I'm sure when you used to travel on the road, someone had to be responsible for driving the van. And so you're like the web guy for the van too.
I'm the web guy.
Great.
I'm the
And then
designated driver on the internet. There we go.
One thing you'll find interesting, or one of the advantages of WordPress for those that are new to WordPress, is like if you have music and you have that music hosted somewhere or your videos hosted somewhere, you could just paste that link into WordPress, and then it'll build a player for you, and then it'll play it automatically. So you don't have to do a lot of the technical stuff. So,
All right, like the WordPress links just pop right up and they show
right.
the
Like if you
video
paste a
to you.
YouTube link in there, it'll embed the
YouTube.
player.
That's what I mean. That's what I meant.
In a lot of
YouTube video.
instances. So those are some of the advantages of WordPress over some of the other ones. Hey, Ron, welcome back. Ron is one of our veteran members. He's been a WordPress developer for over 20 years. He's an awesome guy.
You've been talking to my wife or people that no. Thanks for the awesome. No, I have been working on web stuff for over 20 years, and a lot of it very poorly, and a lot of it home, teaching myself. And I just wanted to tell everyone here that anything you do on computers can be broken down to simple steps. And if you can just make a note of simple steps, you can do anything. You do not need any technical ability. You just need some patience and take good notes. That's what got me through, tormenting my first clients, while I learned on the job. And, but the learning never ends. I mean, I'm sure you might be starting this year. I might be 23 years into it. Doesn't matter. I feel like a babe in the woods, like you may. And so just hang in there. Take good notes, write down things, write down what you did, because you will not remember what you yourself did, but you may also need to explain what you did, to others, especially if you have clients. So anyway, I'm a web developer in North Hollywood, and I also co-founded Accessible Web plus WordPress, which was formerly called WordPress San Fernando Valley Meetup. And we focus on accessibility, actually on all platforms now, but mostly on WordPress. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Joe.
All right. And then, of course, you got to sell the holiday dessert debate.
I'm huge on any dessert, but pie is definitely it. And pumpkin pie, floats my boat most of the time. I love squash and all vegetables. And so, things like sweet potato pie are fabulous. But many of you may not know, pumpkin pie is not made from the kind of pumpkins that you see in the photo on the can of pumpkin. They're not, they're not the ones that you carve. They're more like squashes. So, and it's all, it's a continuum.
And sweet potatoes are not potatoes. They're actually yams.
They are yams. Exactly. Very good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway,
all right. Thank you. So it looks like the pie's sort of running away with it so far. All right, Don, I saw your message. I didn't expect to see you today. Welcome.
Oh, that was for the other event, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. No, I had an event this morning. I got an event after this. You know how it goes. My name's Don. Some people already know me. I live in Tucson, Arizona. Got kind of a varied background. Spent 11 years in the Air Force, aircraft maintenance and flight simulators, and then spent 36 years with a defense contractor. Went back to college, got my degree in computer science. So I've got a strong background in software, electronics, and mechanical. So they labeled me a multidiscipline engineer. But coding for software is a little different than WordPress, and I want to do everything at once, which kind of slows me down. Like I want to do CSS, but you got to learn that. And that's different from what I learned. But I've only been messing around with WordPress for probably a year and a half. I originally built a website probably 11 years ago now using HTML and Notepad, and hosted it on Bluehost, and it's just been there. It was a website that was kind of a tribute to some friends I lost in Vietnam, and then it kind of went from there. And I'm hoping to redo it in WordPress, but I'm procrastinating really bad. All this stuff makes sense to me. I just have to sit down and do it. Recently, my Bluehost was coming up for renewal, so after coming to Joe's meetups, I decided to go with GreenGeeks, and got a hosting service for 3 years there.
So did you do a formal migration over from Bluehost to GreenGeeks, or are you going to rebuild the site from scratch, or what do you want to do with your WordPress site?
Well, I can't migrate it because it's all still HTML and.
Oh, okay. So you're going from a traditional site over.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I could transfer the files over and do it that way. That's the easy part. But I want to do it with WordPress and do it right. I just I got distracted lately, so too many things.
Well, like everyone's been saying, like the theme is we'll take it step by step. If you haven't spun up a site and you have your domain, did you spin up your site in GreenGeeks and you have your domain name in place, or are you one step back?
I have a domain name and WordPress is installed, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because after we go through these 2 steps, the next step, of course, is going to be talk a little bit about the user experience, but then we're going to talk about, pages, posts, creating your content. So that'll be sort of the whole circuit that we're going to go through.
Yeah, for me, I'm never going to be in the business of building websites for profit. It's always probably going to be personal. Maybe sometime I might help with nonprofit or something like that, but that's all in the future.
Awesome.
Mostly, I enjoy it. Like Ron says, I enjoy learning. I'll keep coming to these as long as I can learn.
Okay. Awesome. All right. And then did you want to pitch in on the holiday dessert debate or not really?
Pumpkin pie when I can eat dessert.
Okay, great.
Dietary.
All right. Great. Oh, I understand. I totally understand. Dave, welcome.
Hello. I'm Dave Bianchi, developer in Santa Clarita. I work primarily on a corporate website called Central Casting. I've been doing WordPress for a little bit over 5 years, programming it's in general for the web for over 20. And I have no opinion on the desserts. Do whatever makes you happy.
That's not true, Dave. You spoke about pie last week. I mean, last month. Whenever it was.
Well, I did get my raspberry Pi, yes.
Yeah, see?
Very nice. All
That's
right.
PI, if anyone doesn't know.
It's a little computer.
Piece of electronics for we geeks.
All right. Barb, welcome.
Hello, I'll put my video on for a second. I am not screen ready yet. So
Oh, that's
I'm just gonna turn
fine.
it back
Oh,
off.
that's fine.
I just
Hey,
wanted to
this
say
is-
hi.
It's a camera optional meetup, of course.
Yeah, and I'm actually from Pennsylvania. So just done some work around the house and a little not ready for screen time. But I actually missed the previous class, so I'd love to. Is that available to replay?
Well, I'm going to put up the video tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up. I just wanted to put some time points in the video. So when you open up the more info and it has a little description of the video, I'll put time points for the different topics
Brilliant.
that we talk about. That'll allow you. So that's the delay. I sort of go overboard with that stuff.
Oh, I greatly appreciate that extra effort. Thank you so much. But so for me, in terms of my background and experience with WordPress, I've kind of like wanted to jump in, but haven't. I got my little toe in the pool of WordPress, but that's it. So I've been looking at it. I did a site for university years ago. A friend of mine and I just did, playing around, trying to learn years ago, a site, very basic. nothing intermediate or advanced by any means. So now I'm at the place where I want to create websites for myself, one for real estate investing where I have portfolio of work that I'm going to do. And then another, some other pages like landing pages for contacting and leads. And then I also am starting a podcast. So I want to start a page for that as well, a site for that as well. So those are things I want to do. And I started looking at a class with somebody, and one of the things they did, it was through our local unemployment group, and they were using desktop server to just do the
staging
website
sites?
locally.
Yeah.
Say what?
Oh, it's, I was just saying what you were saying, just in a different term.
And what did you say?
Oh, I said staging it locally.
Aging.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm actually completely unable to install that successfully. So I have been in communication with them trying to figure out, it's giving me an error on 443, port 443, and I can't figure out what's using it. I can't find my SQL on it. That's what they're saying. So I'm kind of really stuck with that. And that's kind of where I sit right now, trying to figure out, you know, is there some other way to do staging, or do I
definitely.
just edit
And
live?
what I mentioned, I don't know if you were on at the beginning. I'm sorry to interrupt. We're going to have office hours before each class.
Yes.
So next week, if you want to come in and talk staging, come at 10 o'clock and jump on.
Okay.
I usually recommend folks go with Local by Flywheel as a staging thing. It's free. It's easy to spin up. And actually, I've done a topic on it for this meetup. I could share the, if you reach out to me on the Meetup page, I'll send you the link from that class, and it'll walk you through how to set it up. It's really, really easy, and it'll allow you to get up and running if you want to test locally. What we'll talk about today too is, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do I have to be using Flywheel, or is it like a free thing, or?
Oh, it's free. It's free.
Okay.
It's called Local, and you download it. It's a desktop application. Like I said, you'll see in the video.
That would be brilliant. Thank you. And I will follow up with you on the Meetup, as well as look for office hours next week. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
And for the holiday.
Okay. The holiday dessert debate.
I usually like all different desserts, equal opportunity dessert fan. But my all-time favorite, and that what really brings me to the holiday, is my grandmother's applesauce raisin cookies.
Ooh, wow.
Recipe,
And
please.
yeah, I actually, ping me and send me a chat, and I will get the recipe for you. But I went gluten-free a couple years ago, and I haven't converted the recipe. So I think that'll give me something to do for this holiday, because it just warms my heart thinking about it and just puts me in the holiday season. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's it.
And I'm sorry, I have one more question. Barb, what's your podcast going to be on, in case we want to follow or listen?
It's a hobby. It's on beach combing. So I find and collect seashells and just appreciate their beauty, and want to share that with so many others that do the same. Cool. So it's just kind of sharing that passion.
Oh, that's awesome. And they're great places to make podcasts and get them up free. And again, in WordPress, you could just grab their embed code or their link and paste it into your page, and you'll have a player that points to whatever platform that you podcast from. So they make it really easy.
I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. All right. Oh, and one last question. Do you have a host already? Do you have domains already reserved? You mentioned you were trying to do something with desktop server locally. What's your WordPress status overall? Do you have a host?
So I actually have an old website, and I spawned 2 WordPress sites off of that years ago that I was playing around with years ago. So I don't have domain names yet for my real estate business or for my podcast. Actually, the domain I want for my podcast, they're selling for 10 grand. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I'm really kind of just stuck on that. Like, I love that name and I want to go for it, but so I don't. But I actually, my other website and the 2 pieces of WordPress I spawned off of it are from a company in somewhere in Asia, a friend of mine who does WordPress sites uses them for domain and for hosting. So I'll take any suggestions if you have them as well.
Okay. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it last time. There are a number of different hosts. It just depends on, and I'll talk about it in the recap a little with your host. Do you need someone, like when you make a mistake, do you need someone on support? Do you feel like you can do it yourself? Do you want a wizard to be able to spin up a site? All those factors, in addition to how many, do you want to build one site? Do you want to build a whole bunch of sites for yourself and your client? All those decisions sort of dictate where you can go in terms of direction. And everyone in this channel has some recommendations. I'm sure they could share those with you as we go as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Barb. And last but not least, D Noble.
Hey, I'm Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
I came to the last in-person meetup, I think, before everything shut down, like a month before everything shut down. So I was glad to meet you then. I've been blogging since 2008 now. It's on just the same blog, and it's sort of a mid-level. It's not too bad, but it sort of needs a refresh, and the new themes that I can get on WordPress.com would take a fair amount of work to transfer all the material over. Because I started out sort of simple, and everything has more bells and whistles and needs a lot more images than I have. But yeah, I mean, I went to WordPress.com because I'd had an independent HTML site and it got bombed by some porn, God knows what. You know, so and the host wouldn't help me fix it. So their security was bad enough. I don't have time or the knowledge to be really vigilant on independent security, unfortunately. So I don't know. How is Bluehost and what is it, GreenGeeks and that kind of stuff for helping you with that?
Well, all of them, again, it depends on what you purchase. Some of them have support built in, depending on your plan. And I'll throw it out to the audience. What do folks, like for instance, I know Ron is on SiteGround and he does a few different other ones. What do you like about the host you're on, Ron, and what can you recommend for Debbie, or in terms of the support experience?
To be honest, I used to be on Bluehost with a lot of my clients, but they got purchased by a gigantic company and their support just went, down the drain as far as I'm concerned. And the same happened with Network Solutions, and then GoDaddy has never had very good support. So when SiteGround came along, it was just truly amazing. And they actually inherited a lot of support people from a place called Site5, which also used to be great and also got purchased by a gigantic corporation and turned into slush. And so but over the last few years, as Oren said, SiteGround has become more expensive. And really they've earned it because they've earned the ability to charge more because they offer huge value. GreenGeeks, however, is right now on the top of my list for best value all around because, and they have really good support too, very good support. So that's
anybody else want to chime in? I know Oren, you mentioned Oren is on the other end of the spectrum. He's had some challenges with GoDaddy and SiteGround. Sally, I know you just jumped onto a host too. What you want to share? Have you dealt with support yet, or are you still in the infancy stages?
This was a great week of learning for me since our session last week. So I joined GreenGeeks after WordCamp Santa Clarita Valley. They were one of our sponsors, and I checked out a lot of their sites. I still have a few client sites that I host and take care of, and my former partner, they're on his server and has ghosted me since June to help me move them off. So I signed up to GreenGeeks. They're affordable. I got the popular plan, I think $5 a month, unlimited sites for like 3 years. Cause I'm like, okay, in 3 years, I could figure this out if they're going to stay, move or whatever. I just needed to get them somewhere safe where I can update their sites. So I actually had to go back to my former developer I worked with, and he rebuilt one of the sites for me and still had a copy of one of the sites that he built for me. So I just have to get the GoDaddy domains because I always have my clients own their own assets, because I've heard too many horror stories where agencies won't transfer the domains of clients when they leave. So I just have to get those to move it. But so I first called GreenGeeks to get help to move my my digital marketing agency domain off that server onto GreenGeeks, and the guy sent me all this stuff. And honestly, this stuff just is like, my head shuts down on all this technical stuff. And so I just kind of left it. And then I called back this week and I got this great guy who held my hand and walked me through. And now I have my business domain on the GreenGeeks site. And he's like, call me back anytime and I'll help you move everything else. But then I didn't realize that once I put it on the GreenGeek site, it's just sits there. Like, I guess I still next step have to put my WordPress site or something on there, which I want to learn today, because I just want to put it like a coming soon. So when people go to it, because I'm not on the other guy's server, so that sign is gone down. But this guy like redeemed GreenGeeks for me this week, because don't send me all these articles to read and figure it out. You know, I need my hand held for a little bit, but then I saw how easy it was. And I was like, it made me just so nervous, you know, because if you don't know it, you think it's harder than what it is.
Yeah, and I know for me, the way I like to learn is I sort of try to figure it out on my own. And then when I see somebody demo it, then it connects the two. So it makes a lot of sense when you see somebody do it. And the great thing, and I think I mentioned that we've been going back and forth with emails at Metro, we've had two instances where one, when our lead developer and CSS Goddess left, we moved our site from an internal host, you know, our own install of WordPress. We migrated it off to WordPress VIP. So they helped us with migration. Then it was part of the hosting package. And then recently when we moved off of, we moved it back out of house onto SiteGround. They helped with the migration, and it just depends on what you need. Because I know Debbie, I believe DeNoble mentioned you have a blog that you've had for quite a while, and it's hosted. You may want them to migrate that into a different WordPress host in general. So you want people to help you with that. What we're going to talk about that's going to address what you're talking about, Sally, what you're talking about, DeNoble, is there are some challenges when you migrate. When you go from, like, for instance, I need to update my brother's site because his theme is like 7 years old. So I want to move it over. But when you move over to a new theme, you have to sort of make sure everything maps. Some things won't map because every theme is in and of itself different from another theme. So that's part of the equation. So again, I want to try to strip it down to the basics, and then we'll go from there in terms of how do you figure out whether you're building something from scratch versus trying to migrate stuff over and map things out. The migration is a little more tricky. We're not going to go into it in super in depth, but we'll talk about, when we talk about how to create posts and pages, how you have to take those things into consideration when you're choosing a theme. When you're like, you know, do you think you want this theme to go, you know, we change visually every couple of years. Maybe we'll change our theme every 3 or 4 or 5 years. If you're going to do it in that period of time, what should that theme be? Do you want, because if you go from a page builder to a traditional theme, that might not matter. So anyway, I'm going to stop because I don't want to overcomplicate things, but we'll talk about some of the basics that help you make those kind of decisions. And then hopefully at the end of this series, we'll have a site that's up and running, and then you can get in and start plugging away at your content and things of that nature.
And then, Joe, I just want to say on migration with GreenGeeks, I guess you receive one free migration that they help you with, and then every other one is only $15.
Well, that's good.
For them to do. Like, that's not even $15. Like, for me to figure it out on my own would take me like so much longer than that.
Yeah, and I know for me, both of ours were, the initial one was free, and then the subsequent ones they were at a fee. So yeah, so that's great. All right, so I think we got everybody. So let's just jump right into the slides and start talking about today's topic. All right, I'm going to jump through these pretty quick because, again, the introductions today was to sort of save a little bit of time. Welcome to Santa Clarita Valley Meetup. We're remote now. We've been remote since the pandemic. We meet on Saturdays generally to talk about all things WordPress. My meetup, you know, every meetup has its own flavor. And again, this meetup is really for people that are new to the WordPress community. We have topics where I'll demonstrate things or we'll bring people in to talk about certain topics. And I try to give you a variety of topics from a WordPress vantage point. Our primary sponsor is GreenGeek, so thanks again to them for making this possible. Again, over this week on Wednesday, I presented a webinar for GreenGeeks on accessibility. We're going to talk a little bit about that in our next session in terms of thinking about the user experience. But that when that video is made available, they're going to do, I think they're doing some final editing. When that goes up online, I'll share it with the group as well. It's a great learning resource about the basics of accessibility. As Ron mentioned, he and Sumner Davenport and Jennifer Wang, they have a meetup that talks about accessibility more in depth. So once you get an overview of what accessibility is in relation to WordPress, you probably want to check in with their group and do some hands-on work on some of the more complicated issues or some of the more complex issues that you'll have to deal with. These are our global sponsors as well. All of our meetups start with this. We're friends here. We're trying to learn from each other and learn with each other. So it's not really about putting others down, et cetera, or being a jerk. We're here to just learn WordPress in a nurturing and friendly way. All right, you can find our group on any of these social media platforms with this acronym or this hashtag, WordPress SCV. Our WordCamp is generally in the spring. We had it in the summer this year because of the pandemic. You can find out about it there on these social media platforms. And the slides will be available later today at this URL. And I'll share it in the meetup as well as the link to the video when it goes up. You can find out about this meetup in general. WordPress meetups appear in your admin dashboard. If you're traveling, if you want events that are near wherever you're going to be, you can fill them in the city field in the box, and it updates based on where you are in the world. So I use this to travel. Next week, State of the Word is going to happen. What that is sort of the founder and WordPress, Matt Mullingweg, gives a presentation on what's happened in WordPress in the last year and what's going to happen in the coming years. It's a great way to find out what's going on. There have been a lot of changes over the past 3 or 4 years with Gutenberg and things of that nature. So it's always good to see where they're going to take this open source software. And it's great because you can ask questions. If you have a question, or you can find out more about the State of the Word here, but if you have questions, you could send them to this email address. And if they like it, they'll reach out and they'll ask you to record your question and he'll answer it live, which is great also. Here are some news and notes. 2 WordCamps are happening internationally. And again, if you speak Italian or if you speak a native language to Taiwan, those are happening next weekend. Also, I'm including links in the slide deck to this month in WordPress. Again, that gives you more details on, like for instance, if an update to WordPress happens, they'll tell you what's inside that update, things that are coming, and things of that nature. So you might want to click through on that. WordPress 5.9, its release has been moved back to January 25th. So there's news on that. And then there's a survey. So WordPress always wants to hear what you think. It's open source, it's built by people like you and me. So I would suggest clicking in and taking that survey and letting them know what you'd like to see in WordPress in the coming year. We've gone through introductions and the welcome. We talked a little bit about the news and events. So let's get down to today's topic. Learning WordPress 201. We'll recap the 5-minute install. We'll talk about plugins and themes and what's next. All right, so last week we kicked off this series. Again, it may be 3 parts, it may be 4 parts. I'm thinking it's probably gonna be 4 parts or maybe even 5, but we're gonna go week by week. And from a beginner standpoint, we're gonna sort of map out the WordPress process. Last week, we talked about WordPress, the history of it, why people love to use it, why it's slowly growing and to where now I think it's 42% of the websites built in the world use that as its software. It's a great CMS. It's an easy CMS. There's some structure to it that you can leverage to do a lot of things that are more advanced. A lot of folks, I shared a story last week. when I run into developers, they think about WordPress 15 years ago as strictly a blog, but it can do so much more. It can create things that I know Barb mentioned, like landing pages. I mean, it's so extensive now that really you can take it wherever you want based on how much you want to learn and how many advanced features you want to fold into it. We talked a little bit last week about what's the difference between .org and .com. I mentioned last week, some people are the type that get under the hood. They want to tear things apart. They want to build a computer. Or you're the type of person that wants to hit a button, have it work, and then just go about doing your business. So every place in between, and I'm sure people fall somewhere in between on that spectrum. But again, we want to sort of make sure that we show you the basics and you could take off from there. We talked a little bit about choosing host. Again, we talked a little bit during the introductions. It's really about what level of service do you need? You do get what you pay for. As you move, most hosts have various plans. I always recommend starting with something on the lower end and working your way up. But if you know things like, I just need one site, I may need 15 sites. I'm going to do sites for my clients. All these things sort of shape what you need in terms of a host. And I mentioned also that this is a great time to invest in hosts that you may be looking at because of Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and holiday deals. A lot of them have deals that you can take advantage of. And it's been mentioned in this meetup too. Try to not just to get it for 1 year, get that discounted price for 3 years maybe. And that way that'll give you enough time to comfortably learn the system, get your site up and running. And then when those 3 years come up, you can decide, hey, once the discount price period ends, hey, do I need to move it somewhere else, or do I want to stick with this host? So we talked a little bit about that. Also, we looked at a hands-on demo of the SiteGround 5-minute install. I currently use, at our office, we have a SiteGround account, but we also have a GreenGeeks account. So I demoed how easy it is to spin up a site in SiteGround. And so today we're gonna look at GreenGeeks, and then I'll show you a little bit about the WordPress.com process as well. All right, last week, part of the homework was to identify your host and to find out if that host has a 5-minute install. So in the chat, if you don't mind, list your host that you're on or that you're interested in using. And if you're already with the host, let me know if you've identified where the 5-minute install is located. And generally, when I say 5-minute install, it could be, a lot of these hosts call it their wizard, or they call it something like that. So go ahead in the chat, enter yours. All right, so just give me 1 second. I'm going to turn the screen off. I'm going to go grab a water. I'll come right back. While I'm doing that, enter your information in the chat. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so today's theme, today's topic again is learning WordPress 201. Again, when you're in college or when you've been in school, it starts with the level 101, which is an overall or an introduction. And then as you step up, it gets a little more complicated in each class that you take. So today we're gonna talk about, again, about the 5-minute install, plugins, and themes. Why is that important to learn it from a basic or beginner standpoint? A lot of folks, when they get into WordPress, they'll spin up a site. They'll either be working with someone that gives them recommendations, and a lot of times the plugins we decide to use, the themes we decide to use, are really based on what someone, like for instance, I've heard the story in some of the introductions that they worked with somebody to build their site, or they have a friend that sort of helped them build their site. And it's really what that person's idea of WordPress is. What I'm going to try to show you is sort of a bird's eye view of how plugins and themes work, give you some tips on how to pick some of those things, but then it'll be up to you, because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of themes and plugins that you can use. And again, people swear by certain things, and I don't want to, step on that. But again, you should always make sure that you cover your bases in terms of being secure, of making sure you're protected from spam. A lot of the basics we'll talk about today. All right, and these are some resources based on the 5-minute install. The first link is Marco Baracal at GreenGeeks. He's going through the wizard that I'm going to talk about today. Today, unfortunately, the account that I have at Metro, the person that pays for our account, he's our accountant. He's the owner of it, so I can't log in without him sending his verification to me. So I'm not going to bother him on Saturday for that. So I'm going to show you some screens of what the process is at GreenGeeks, but this video will walk you through step by step on how to do that. Also, Oren mentioned he was with GoDaddy. I found a video on the GoDaddy 5-minute install process here that you can follow. And then another resource, which is a meetup that gets together on a weekly basis. They're doing the Learn WordPress series. The social learning meetup group is run by the Automatic group. And Automatic are the people that built WordPress. People on that team, they lead you talking about learning WordPress on WordPress.com. So they're going to talk about writing CSS, picking a theme, using Gutenberg. So that's a great way to learn the WordPress.com version of what we're talking about as well. All right. So what we see here is, and again, this is the GreenGeeks wizard. So once you log into your GreenGeeks account, on the left, in the hosting area for me, once I click on that, over here on the right-hand side, there's something called the Quick Launch Wizard with a green link. That's what you're going to click to activate the 5-minute install. And again, if you remember last week when we did SiteGround, we went through and we began clicking buttons, and each button was sort of a series of questions that in the old process, like the soft delicious process that Betty probably ran through, it asks you a number of different questions, you fill it out, and then you hit install and it spins up a site for you. This wizard does the same thing, but in a more visual manner. And again, we did that with SiteGround last week. So once you click on that, it's going to prompt you, it's going to give you a little timeline across the top with the 3 steps. And then just below that, it's going to start walking you through some questions. So it says, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to start a new website? Do you want to migrate a site? That's what Sally did. Do you want to do a starter site? And again, last week, if you remember in SiteGround, these boxes were termed a little differently. Like I think it was start a new site. One was migrate. And then I think it was without a domain. So it had it listed these steps in a different manner. But again, it's a wizard to try to walk you through and answer some of the basic questions that you'll have when you're starting the site. So once you, or you may be a little more advanced and you want to skip it, and it'll start with a blank install and you take it from there. So once you made that decision, you move on to the next.
Joe, sorry, I have a question. So
yes.
Since I haven't built my website yet, I'll be building it with Alicia using, I think, Gutenberg. Am I hitting start a new website, or am I hitting a starter site?
Well, if you've used the migration tool, then this step is probably done for you already.
Well, I guess I just migrated my domain on to GreenGeek. So when you go to my domain, it just says awesome website coming, GreenGeeks.
Well, I think you'll probably need to follow up, because generally when you do the migration, they spin up a site for you as part of that process. So you need to find out from who you dealt with, whether you have a login, because usually, and I guess you can find out also if you go to your domain name /WP admin, if it pops up the WordPress login box, then that means it's already installed. So, so if you want to do that now on your site, and then just chat me a message, but that's how it works. If that's not the case, like I said, in the past, when we've done the migration, They do all that, and then we just go metro.net/WP admin, and then we get to working.
Okay.
And that's probably what you didn't pay for, but that's the service that.
Okay. And then I have an old website from an old business that I have that I love so much. I can't get rid of it.
Mhm.
I still pay for hosting it. It totally needs to be done, but I don't want to let it go. If
Uh-huh.
I move that over, I'd just be doing my great website. Would it matter that it's on old code and when you look at it on the screen, it's small? It's not the same size.
Well, what you're gonna, and again, we're sort of jumping ahead to the content part.
Oh, sorry.
If it's not done in WordPress, or if it's done in an older version of WordPress, there's going to be some mapping that you're going to have to do. If it's HTML, you're going to have to recreate those pages in the WordPress format.
Okay, thanks.
But one thing to be cognizant of with what I'm showing you here, this all depends on your plan. If you go with probably the cheapest plan, you may only get one website. So you probably won't be able to do this. If you have to make sure you have the right plan. Like there's the plans that have unlimited sites. And I think once you move up past the beginner phase to number 2, 3, or 4, you'll have the ability to create multiple sites. When you have the ability to create multiple sites, then you have these options. So just make sure you don't have the hosting plan where you only get one. Go ahead, jump in, Betty. You're muted.
I was so excited starting off. I just started pushing buttons. Is it possible? Is it possible to go back to the beginning and just start over
On GreenGeeks.
with GreenGeeks?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say. So did you do something like this, or did you use Soft Delicious and you got and you
Right. I remember seeing this site, this page, and I think that I did starter site.
Yeah, and
I don't know if I did starter site or start new website. I don't know what I did. And then that Soft Delicious came up. I was just trying to get to WordPress.
Yeah, what Soft Delicious does, it's a lot of, and I think last week we mentioned, before these wizards came along, and these wizards are the last couple of years, most hosts do it. Before that, you would use a control panel, and in the control panel, which is probably how you did it, there's install WordPress, and that takes you to Soft Delicious, which runs scripts to do what these wizards do. But it's a little more manual. You have to answer more questions. But probably what happened with you is if you were using that, you needed to make sure you wrote down the username you selected, the password you selected, because that's what you use to log into your WordPress site. You probably have a WordPress site, but if you didn't write down your username and password, you probably can't get back into that site. Although you'll probably have to go through control panel and reset your password, which can be done. So again, this is probably something we can deal with in the office hours.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
All right. All right. So yeah, so you again, a wizard makes it easy because again, it asks you a series of questions that you answer. And as you answer those, you work your way towards a site. So if you select to start a new website, for example, then it pops another question down. Uh-oh. Oh, then it pops down another set of questions where you can select your app. For most of us, we're going to start with WordPress. Eventually, I think a couple of people mentioned that they may sell something, so you may want to do Word and WooCommerce. But I would say for the level of the class, we probably all want to do just the beginning WordPress. All right. Once you select that, then it takes you to the next screen in the wizard. You'll notice that at the top, it says SSL configuration. I know last week we talked a really brief bit about SSL certificates, and most of the hosts now have that as part of the package. But again, depending on the host that you want to, that you're thinking about using, make sure you ask these questions and make sure that they're included in their plan, because again, it's sort of like the basics. Like most hosts should give you this for free. If they don't, or they charge you for it, then maybe you should try a different one. That's just my opinion at the beginning. All right, so if you click on that pencil that's next to SSL configuration, then you'll be able to put in things like what's the name of the site, your tagline, and things of that nature in relation to that as well. Then you have to pick a theme. Most of these wizards, they give you a couple of themes. They don't give you the entire repository. And again, with GreenGeeks, it gives you a few choices there. So again, this may be different depending on what your host, like SiteGround has a different set of beginner themes that you can choose from. Again, they're making it easier for you to jump ahead of some of the roadblocks that you may do if you do a manual install. All right. Again, this is, once I've clicked on the pencil, this is that site information tab. So again, you would enter your project name, et cetera, and then underneath that, it has some SSL configuration information, like Let's Encrypt, things like that. You make that choice. Then once you made the choice on what theme you want, then it gives you a couple of plugins that they recommend you install. Again, we're gonna go through the basics of choosing a plugin and why you should choose certain things. But if you have something in mind, like Oren mentioned, he was interested in Divi. As you can see, it's not part of this package, so you wouldn't need to select Elementor, for example. Just leave that as it is and then jump in and install it yourself. So again, this is building a shell with WordPress with these basic things already installed. And like, for instance, in my case, I usually uncheck this stuff. I usually start with the empty one and I put in our base plugins that we use from time to time. As you can see, Monster Insights on GreenGeeks, that's SEO. OptiMonster is sort of a pop-up builder and a marketing thing. Elementor is their page builder. WooCommerce is e-commerce. They give you a form tool, I think WP Forms. And then if you do a multi-site, which is a different thing altogether, you can choose the WP Central. But for the purpose of this class, we want to keep it really simple. Then after you've done that, GreenGeeks gives you some caching tools that'll help speed up your site as part of the package. Once you've gone through those steps, and again, if you look at what we've been asked to do, you can make these decisions in a minute. You click create my website, boom, in 5 minutes, again, you're good to go with WordPress. Excuse me. Any questions so far? So again, as you can see, in comparison to last week, these wizards are kind of similar. The questions may be a little different. The options with the themes or the plugins may be a little different, but they do the same thing. They basically ask you the basic questions for your site. And then once you've done that, it'll create a site for you.
So Joe, sorry, what is lazy load images? Is that just our images? It's just.
Well, when you go to a website, and again, we'll talk a little bit about image optimization and things like that in a future class. The page has to load, and it goes from left to right, top to bottom, loading the information that's on the page. Lazy load will allow it to load the images in the background. And so as it goes up the page, it builds the page as you go instead of having to wait for each image to load left to right, top to bottom. It gives you a better experience. It loads them in the background in advance.
And then
or images from cache. Go ahead.
Is crawler for SEO?
Crawler. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Again, this is part of their package. Again, it's their plugin that does these features for you. I would have to ask them to find out what that is.
Okay, thanks.
All right. All right. So again, that's a comparison of those two. Let me just jump out of here really quick and get any questions that we may have so far on the GreenGeeks process.
So this last step here, the cache, is this automatic?
Well, in SiteGround, if you, depending on the option that you chose, SiteGround has a caching plugin, but it's not that one. It's a different one. They have their own proprietary SG. I think it's SG Cache or something like that, and it does the same thing. So again, every tool has their version of the same thing. So you just have to decide what you want. Or like I said, you may want to go clean and pick your own plugins that do the same thing. So it's up to you. But again, for the purpose of this class, a lot of folks aren't at this point where they have a site that they can log into. So we want to get to that point. And again, using the wizard, in my opinion, is probably the easiest way.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. So the last one that I'm going to show, and this is totally different. Again, I know last week we talked a little bit about the WordPress.com way. Again, WordPress.com is similar to all the hosting companies that we've talked about, Bluehost, DreamHost, GreenGeeks, SiteGround. They all have various plans that you could choose from. And again, WordPress.com is like those, whereas it's hosted somewhere, they take care of various levels of things for you based on how much you pay. You could start with free. And I know a couple of people mentioned they're on WordPress.com. They're probably using the free version. And when you do a free version, it's the bottom of the barrel. It's a free site, but you don't have a domain name. You get a garblygook.wordpress.com address, which may be fine. I know our Meetup has a WordPress.com site because I've been too cheap to buy a domain name. And it has some limitations to it. You can't install plugins at the free version. You have a certain selection of themes, but you can buy themes if you want. But again, it's a lot more limited. So that's probably a lot different from the other hosts that you invest in. So the host that you're going to pay, that you're going to pick, it's pay from zero. So a lot of the limitations that you get with this free one, you won't even have to deal with. But they do have a number of different plans starting from $4 up to $45. It's a little more expensive than the hosting companies, and that's why the other hosting companies are a lot more popular. I like to show you this one because, again, I was on the WordPress.com side where we were with VIP. So if you're the type of person that wants entirely, to have a hands-off experience and have, one thing I love about WordPress.com is that you click on the little help chat, you get somebody, you can put in if no one's there, you get to put in your information and they'll contact you. They'll walk you through it the same way. So it has great support too. But again, as you can see, with each, as you work up, for instance, if you do premium or business or e-commerce, you get a lot more features. You get the domain name included. One downside, and again, with all of these hosts, they want to take care of everything for you. So they'll take care of your domain name too. If you get your domain name with one of these hosts, chances are and it's time to renew, that domain name is going to cost a little more than getting it on Namecheap or at another cut rate domain name thing. So it just depends on, again, your level of comfort and what you want to do. It may be easier for you to just say, hey, auto renew at whatever the cost is, 18, like for instance on .com, it's $18 a year for the theme, for the domain names. All right. So again, you can see what's like, for instance, with the personal account, you don't get the live support. You get the ability for upload videos, you get Google Analytics integration as you move up. You can install plugins when you get to the business level. So again, when you're deciding on a host, make sure you look at all these features and make sure that the features that you need are included with that host. All right. So so I've decided, hey, I want to start with a free account. I'll click on that. It brings you to this screen. Do you have a domain or do you want one? If you want one, you could enter in the name. So I'll say, hey, is Joe.
Well, I'm not sure we're seeing the same screen that you're talking about.
Yes.
We're still on GreenGeeks.
Ooh, okay, hold on. It's inside. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. Thanks, Ron. Hold on. I think what happened is I chose the keynotes. I'm sorry. Oh, so I'll step back. I'm so sorry, folks.
You're gonna have to explain what WordPress.com is, I think, again.
All right, yeah. All right, sorry.
For those that don't know.
Thank you. Everyone was so quiet. I thought everyone was just so mesmerized by my silky voice. So can you see the screen now? It says there's a plan for you at the top of it.
Yep.
All right, so this is the WordPress.com site. So I clicked on plans and prices, and it has the different options. Again, depending on how you move up the scale, again, if you get the e-commerce, you get everything. That includes SEO optimization, you get WooCommerce already bundled in, you get the domain name free for a year, et cetera, et cetera. But as you work your way down, again, as you can see, with free, you don't get anything. You don't get to install plugins or anything like that. Even at the personal level, it blocks out a lot of that stuff. But as you move up to premium and upwards, it has a lot more features. And again, if you feel like I want to just get something up and running and have somebody there if I need a question, if I have a question, this could be the way to go. for you again. Again, I'd show you everything, but most of these people that are on this call today are probably on a host like SiteGround or GreenGeeks or Bluehost or something like that. So again, I just want to show you the various things, and then we'll jump in from there. All right, so once you've decided, I clicked on free, and then it says, hey, we want to sell your domain name. If you are looking for a domain name, you could enter in, see if it's available. All right, so see, it is not available with joesimpson.com. It gives you some different options, which you can pick then. We don't want to do that, so I'm going to clear that. But if you were working on either on your own self-hosted site domain, SiteGround, et cetera, you could pick a domain, or you can choose an option where you can plug your domain in later, or you can work with a blank site and then point your domain even later than that. All right. You can use a domain that you own. And again, you would point your domain that way. Let's go back. All right, then it brings up, their wizard is a lot different. It's way more friendly, more Gutenberg style. So it's going to ask you, hey, what do you want to call your site? And then you continue. Then you could choose a domain. We could say, hey, no, I want to skip for now and come back later. Then again, you could see how wizards have these things in common. Now it says, hey, what about the theme? What kind of theme do you want? And these are the themes that are in WordPress.com in the free version. So it has the blank canvas, which is there, which is sort of Automatic's take on, or their response to like page builders. But then you have a lot of, these are the free themes that are available within WordPress.com. So you would just, you may want to pick, let's say, Arbutus. Right. And then it says, hey, what kind of features do you need? So again, it's walking you through a series of questions. You can skip all this for now, or you can say, hey, I want to make sure I have image storage, I want to have video storage, but then they're going to come back later and say, hey, to get these features, you need to level up kind of thing. So for now, let's just unclick that, skip that. Then it says, hey, what kind of plan do you need? For us, we're just going to stay. Again, they're selling you along the way because we went with free. But I'm going to stick with free, and you just select that here. But if not, you could still go through and see how much storage you get with each plan. So again, every wizard walks you through the same questions until you get to the end and select your plan. All right. And then it goes through the 5-minute install. And now we're in the site, it's installed. Again, the WordPress.com admin looks a little different from the WordPress.org, but again, you have your options on the left for your plugins, et cetera. So now we have a site spun up. It's joesimpsonclasses.wordpress.com, and we're good to go. So again, if we can, 5-minute install is the way to go. All right. Any questions before we get into today's topic? Okay. I do not see any questions, so I'm going to keep going. All right. So I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to jump back into the slides for a second. All right. Okay, we did our demonstration of GreenGeeks and WordPress.com. So we've looked at 3 different 5-minute install wizards, again, to show you that it's great because it walks you through the common questions that you have when you create a site. And then at the end of that, you'll have a site that's ready to go in, and we could go into the pages and posts, and we can pick a theme, we can pick a plugin. But anyway, we're at that stage now. Why do I have a picture of Vegas up? Well, I'm going to talk. Well, let me stop right there. I'm going to go back. I just realized I forgot something. We're going to talk about themes next. All right. So when you're on SiteGround, GreenGeeks, et cetera, you have all the control. You're able to decide what themes do you want. Themes are in WordPress they're like clothes. All of us, we have unique styles and tastes, and our themes are a representation of how we want our site to present to customers, clients, and friends. So how do you pick themes? I was looking for, and since we're doing this weekly, I didn't have a chance to dig up a screenshot that I had of when I got back into the WordPress community. I decided to do my brother's website for him. He's a printer, he's a print broker. A lot of our WordCamp paraphernalia, our shirts and stuff, he did them, or like he did this hat for me. He has a printing company and he wanted to be cheap. He said, hey, let me go overseas, hire somebody, you know, like a Fiverr type of thing. They'll do my site for $25. And so I said, hey, I'm taking a leave of absence. I'm trying to, you know, get into WordPress. Can I redo your site for you? And so he gave me the login information. I logged in and I looked at the theme, and it, you know, where you view, and we'll look at this in a second when we install a theme. When I clicked on the theme was blank. And it just had Garbly Cook. It was a weird name. The person that built it for him used a bootleg theme. And needless to say, in addition to that, that was one red flag. He had a virus. His site was overrun because it wasn't secure. So my warning to you is to avoid looking for themes. Don't use something that someone custom builds unless you can get a guarantee from that person. Like if you're working with a talented developer, you know their work, that's fine to use something custom, but avoid searching for themes on google.com. You'll get, like if you look at, let me see. So can everyone see the theme screen for WordPress? Okay. Yes. So for instance, if you did WordPress themes and do a Google search, you get Elementor at the top, you get Theme Forest, you get Bluehost, Elegant Themes, before you get to the WordPress repository. So 5 results down is where you should really look. And then if you keep going, it's Theme Forest jumps back in, Evado. And again, you can be tricked into, like if you click through on these, you may find a premium theme, but it's not from the WordPress repository. So why should you use a WordPress repository?
Well, Joe, first of all the first 5 say ads, so you want to skip them anyways.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying in general, what I'm saying is like, if you're new to WordPress and you're like, hey, I need to find a theme, naturally we're all used to just going to Google and hitting something and searching that way. The point of what I'm trying to say here is try to avoid this and use my process. Again, this is my process. You may find something different down the road. But again, the reasons that we're doing it this way is if we're inside of the repository, we have access to over 9,000 free themes, one. And if they're on the repository and any of the premium themes that you saw aren't on the repository because they decided they didn't want to go through the auditing process or the approval process to be part of the WordPress repository. Another great thing is that, so you know it's meeting at least a number of basic standards to get here. Another good thing is that you have the ability to search based on features. So if you know, for instance, hey, I want a 1-column layout, you can click that. If I want a right sidebar, you can click that, and it'll show you all the themes that have that in mind. So also, if you say, hey, I want to do, like, for instance, there is there's entertainment. So for instance, Larry may want to see all the entertainment-based themes and click that box. If someone's doing a blog, you can click that. And again, that's really a basic one, but you have the ability to select here and filter out on themes. The reason I'm showing you this is that last week we talked about, or maybe we didn't, you can click on accessibility ready. And what that's going to do when you apply that filter is show you all of the themes in the repository that met the accessibility audit for the theme process on WordPress. So these are a basis that get you started on accessibility right. So if you're looking, I know Larry mentioned building a theme with accessibility in mind. Sally mentioned that's part of her business. So you can start with one of these themes and build out your layout. Again, it has a number of different looks and feels. You can see 2021 is there. Any of the, the automatic team does a theme for each year. And that's sort of always guaranteed to be in the accessibility ready panel, but again, it has their look and feel. So if you're interested in making it look like the 2021 theme, you can use that, or you can use any of the other ones. So again, using the repository, you see within in a quick thumbnail version, a lot of different styles. Like a lot of folks, when they come to this, or when they come to WordPress, they have a visual idea of what they want their website to look like. So I always say, try to find something close, and then know you're going to have to tweak a few things to get to the final result. So again, I would always say, if you're looking for a theme, start here. And I'll put this link in the chat. And that'll show you the accessibility ready themes. And the same thing on WordPress.com. If you go to
Joe, thank you. This is great because I've worked with developers over the years, and when choosing a theme for clients, they would send me the theme forest or everything but the WordPress repository. So this is so enlightening. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when you're and again, I'm not trying to make a million skeptics, but when you're working with someone, and unfortunately, they need to earn a living too. So you want to find somebody that you trust. For example, like for instance, I would want to work with Ron. He's been in the industry for 20 years. I'm thinking he's going to steer me in the right direction. But some person you may meet off the street, or if you work with someone that, it's like when you take your car to the dealer, right? You know that they do stories and stories about how auto dealers try to take advantage of women for some stupid reason. It's the same thing. Like when you're working with a developer and you say, oh, I don't know anything about WordPress, I need your help. They make a lot of decisions for you. And a lot of times they may make those decisions with their pocket in mind, you know? And again, these premium themes, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Ron, these premium themes may look, may have a more finished look, but again, they may not, they're 99 out of 100 are probably not going to be accessibility ready. So if you're looking to do that, you want to avoid them. A lot of folks use those because it may be something they're familiar with. They may be able to spin up a site in 5 minutes and get it over to you and get you out of their hair as quick as possible. So again, I have a natural bias against the premium themes, but I do recommend starting with this. And again, I always say try to start free and then upgrade to a premium theme. A lot of times people come in to our meetups and say, hey, I bought a premium theme. It doesn't look anything like the theme. What happened? And then they get frustrated and stop. Go ahead, Ron, I'm sorry.
I have to leave at noon, so I wanted to just share that the Envato and Theme Forest and those sorts of things, they're tempting, and they can be good, but one of the pitfalls of them often is they are built with software that you will not have the license for updating in the future. So for instance, many of these come with what I consider a really horrible page builder called WP Bakery, which has been the curse of developers for the last 10 years. But you don't have a license to WP Bakery. So you bought a theme forest, $80 custom theme, and you get a great, auspicious beginning. But, come a year later, you're going to start seeing little flags that you have to update your WP Bakery or something, and you don't have a license to it, and you will never be able to find one from whoever sold it to you. So, Joe's totally right. And just stay. And the second point I just want to make real quick is don't worry so much about the themes when you're starting so much. Just start simple if you can. The content and your domain name are by far the most valuable things you will ever have. No website is ever finished. No website is ever perfect. It's a rolling thing, so you just kind of got to jump in, but your content, meaning what you write, the tracks that Larry puts up, and jamming out with his band, whatever it is, that stuff, that's the goal. I mean, and that you can migrate, you can move around from host to host, etc. And the domain name itself can be far more valuable than the website. So if you have, target.com, their Target's e-commerce, giant site is worth something, and it took a lot to develop. But the name is their brand, the name is worth even more. So that's why you want to be careful who has access to your domain registration.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Ron, because I was going to ask about functionality on these premium themes, but you just answered that, because they can't be that functional when all of these software, whatever they are, you don't have the license to them.
They will function. They will continue to function, but they'll start falling behind. You see, all these bits of software we're talking about, the plugins, the themes, and the WordPress core itself. There's a million developers out there all doing, all developing. They're making it better. Each one's making their thing better. Or some of them are just changing it so they can sell it again, but who knows? So you have to keep updating that when you have a WordPress site. Yeah. But you can't update, if you don't have the license. In the case of things like WP Bakery and so forth.
So could a business not buy the license for WP Bakery?
Oh, you could. Yeah, you have to go directly to WP Bakery owner and pay them another $60 or whatever it is, probably every year. I don't know.
Yeah, and the scared straight thing is, this is why I sort of recommend start free and work your way up to premium. Is if you do invest in a premium theme that has these requirements for licenses, if you let those things lapse, I've had people from WordFence come into our company and present the best practices and things of that nature when it comes to WordPress, because we switched from a non-WordPress to a WordPress site. And so they had to be sold on the idea. And so we brought in Kathy Zant from WordFence to talk about it. And the number one way that sites get hacked is when your themes or your plugins go out of date. So if you don't have a license, like Ron said, it'll keep functioning. And like my brother's site, his site was done by somebody years ago. Since it was a bootleg theme, it wasn't being updated. The plugins weren't being updated. Those create security holes where people can go in and inject your site or hack your site. So again, start with the free stuff. And again, in this presentation in the next few minutes, we're going to talk about some recommendations for some plugins, like as a basis for you to start with. But what I'm also going to do is give you tools on how to decide on plugins and things of that nature, because you're going to need something special. Like we worked on a site, Ron and I worked on a site for an accessibility competition, and the artist was really hesitant about putting her artwork on the site. She wanted a watermark on her artwork. So we went to the repository and we found something that does it for her. So when you're thinking about WordPress, one of the great things, and we'll get into this in my presentation, is if you think that you need certain functionality, someone's probably built something already. It may be free, it may be premium, but again, you want to at least get up and running, have something stable, something that's easy to update, and then start making those decisions. Like again, we tend to jump ahead. I think the focus of this class, we want to get a WordPress site up and running, and then we can focus on content and then functionality. All that stuff can come as part of the process.
Hey, Joe, a quick question for you on themes again. So let's say you went to the website and you went to the WordPress website and you found a theme you liked. Can you go back into your host server and do a search on that theme, the free theme? Okay.
Yeah, well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that in a second. And again, we're sort of running long, but I'll stay as long as we can to get to the end of this. So I don't know if people need a break right now, or do we want to keep going? Chime in, let me know.
I've got to drop off. It's great seeing everyone. Thank you very much, Joe.
All right.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas if I don't see people.
Okay, see you, Ron. All right,
Bye.
so what you see on the screen.
Have a good one, Ron. Good seeing you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so what you see on the screen again is, and one of the reasons I like WordPress.com, even versus WordPress.org, is like you can get a preview of the theme. It gives you, it talks a lot about, it gives you the different views of the site. It tells you some of the key features to that site and some basics on it. You can also preview a demo, and it sort of shows you the site that you can look at in tablet format, in a mobile format. So it gives you a quick way, and then you could always try and customize, which means it'll activate it on your site, or you can decide to keep looking. So again, I like that about it. Again, you get something similar in WordPress.org. So again, this is, oh, that's .com. Let me go back to, all right. So we'll go here, for example. It's a little different. So the preview, and this is one of the things I don't really like this. It gives you a preview, but it's not as accurate as the one on .com. And again, that'll be something we'll talk about when it comes to themes, because part of the trick or part of the challenge for you is you may see a picture of a theme, but you may have to follow the theme author's directions to get it to look exactly the same. And that could be a challenge or a pitfall. So again, let's not worry about that. But again, the point is with the repository, you have the ability to look for accessibility ready themes. You get the ability to preview certain ones. You can see how many people have downloaded it. Another great thing about a lot of these themes is that you get to see reviews of them as well. So that's how I would recommend looking for themes. So again, come to wordpress.org/themes or wordpress.com/themes if you're on .com, and you can look through some themes that way. All right, let me jump back over to the slide deck and talk about why a picture of Las Vegas. I did this presentation at WordCamp Denver and a couple of other places because Vegas is like plugins for me. You fly into Vegas, you see all the beautiful lights, there's so much going on, and you land at the airport, you're walking through the airport, there's slot machines in the airport, there's ding, 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 people winning, there's so much excitement, there's so many things to do, you can be overwhelmed. A lot of folks have some, like for instance, when I go to Vegas, I'm not a gambler, I'm a foodie. So I'm looking for the restaurants. I don't care about all that stuff. I have my certain thing. I have a young nephew. He just got married, but he was a bachelor. He would go to Vegas and go to the pools, and that. So he had a whole different experience. My point is with plugins, you need to be a little more cognizant of what you need, or you can get overwhelmed. We land at the airport. We're ready to do some WordPress. We look for the guy with the WordPress sign. And then we go to the tables. The roulette wheel is spinning and it comes up 59,562. What does that mean? There are 59,000 plugins in the WordPress repository for plugins. This goes to what you were talking about, Sally. There are so many plugins, and how do you decide what's good for you? How many do you install on your WordPress site before your site is affected? Plugins can have conflicts. This plugin may not work with this one, or this may not be updated recently. There are a whole bunch of factors that go into plugins. What plugins are, I mentioned earlier that themes are like the clothes for your WordPress site. How do you want your WordPress site to look? It's a business site. It needs to look like this for our clients. You think of the themes, but plugins are like the functionality. It makes things happen on the site. It allows you to put a calendar on the site. It allows you to do search engine work. It allows you to put a watermark on your images. There are over 59,000 of these. So how do you decide what you want to use? In our company, we were looking for a calendar plugin. So I came to the repository, I entered calendar, and it brought up a list of plugins with calendar. Again, with this repository, it's similar to the theme repository. It goes through some basic checkpoints to get on the repository. But 59,000 is a lot. How do you decide? If you see in this results that we see here, you see a number of stars. It gives you it tells you the number of reviews for that plugin, and it gives you a description of the plugin. Below that, it tells you who made it, how many have been installed, which is important, and whether it's been tested with the most recent version of WordPress. All of these things are important to you because, one, we don't want to install a plugin that just came out last week. We may have a friend that just built an awesome plugin that went up there. We want people to use it and give us their user experience. I usually read through the reviews before I decide. Like for instance, with the calendar, there are 3 main calendar players in this space. Joe Dolson's My Calendar, which is an accessible calendar tool. And then the two top ones that have over, you know, one has over 800,000 installs. These are the two big ones, but they have premium versions that they want to upsell you to. But anyway,
I'm
so
sorry.
how do you
Joe,
decide? Go ahead.
What were the other two calendars you were recommending? My calendar and
Well, we
top
looked
two
at,
here?
with our company, those were the three. Like we looked at events calendar,
Okay.
modern events, and my calendar. And again, those are the two most popular ones. And then there's one that's more accessible. So you would have to decide on what you want. But how are you going to decide? How many plugins are too many? How do you decide what plugin's right for you? Again, there's a number of different plugins, and depending on the combinations, it's like a roulette wheel. I mean, it's like a slot machine. Different combinations do different things. Different combinations could cause conflicts. How do you decide? So I'm going to ask you a question. How many are too many? Although there's no right set number, too many plugins can slow down your site. You know, 40% or more than 40% now, this slide is from last year, people will exit a page if your site takes more than 3 seconds to load. As I mentioned earlier also, if you let your plugins go dormant or don't update them, they can cause holes that can cause your site to become insecure, and it can be vulnerable to attack. Again, various combinations conflict. Okay, how many are too many? 25 to 50, up to 20, 0 to 5. There's no limits. I love living on the edge.
Joe, do any of the plugins notify you if they don't work with other plugins, or you just learn by trial and error?
You learn by trial and error.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, we talked about whether you like working on your car yourself versus having somebody do it. If you're working on your car yourself, which is selfhosted.org, you need to make sure that you're on top of this kind of stuff. I'll tell you what I like to do. I use a core set of plugins. They're well known. I don't do a lot of modifications. I write some plugins for myself that may do specific things, but I put on auto update on my themes and my plugins, and I don't worry about that. Some, you know, and again, for developers, they may feel differently. Some developers may say never do auto update, but I'm saying for you as a beginner, as long as you're not doing custom code and overwriting, you know, writing custom themes, I wouldn't worry about the auto update. So how many is too many? If you go over 20 plugins, it's going to start affecting your performance for your website. Again, I'm not saying that there's a specific number, but you'll find, hey, this is a great feature to have. Hey, this is a great feature to have. I'll give you a personal example. We did 2 sites, WordPress sites last year. I mentioned we moved over as a company, and one site was done by a vendor. That site has about 35 plugins on it. And I had to come in halfway through the process and sort of say, hey, you know, you could do this with that and this with that. You don't really need to use that kind of thing. And the other theme, the other site that I did without the vendor has been up and running, auto enable, perfect. The other one, we have to put in a change request to update it. So it's different approaches. And again, it's based on those folks are a professional company full of developers that want to bill us versus what you probably want to do as someone that's just starting. So again, try to keep it low. And again, as you get more experience, you may say, hey, I can go over 20 and then find. Some people are really big on making sure your site is very fast, because if you're a business, Google ranks your websites on speed and it pushes them up in the list in the SEO results based on that. So people are really into speed. So again, you don't want to do things that are going to hurt your site, the speed and performance. All right. Again, this talks about what I just mentioned. Speed is so important. Again, even with e-commerce, 1 second, if it takes more than 1 second, people tend to jump. Like if you go to a site that's not Amazon, for example, you think, wow, why isn't this more like Amazon? Because Amazon serves you up that information and gets you to click within 3 clicks, you're buying something and it's at your front door. So again, speed is important. So again, keep your plugins to a minimum to keep that performance up. Here are some plugins, best practices. update, update, update. Always update your themes and your plugins. And again, I may be blasphemous and saying, use the auto updater. Auto updater started about a year ago, I think last year, with the big core update for WordPress. And I use it. And like I said, you set it, and let me see if I have my phone. I was going to show you, like I get an email notification automatically when the themes are themes or plugins are updated. Hold on, let me see if I can find one. Okay. All right. So this was this morning. So one of my websites, oops, it tells me, hey, Joe, oops. It says, Joe, some plugins were automatically updated. So again, I don't have to worry about themes or plugins going out of date. So keep them updated and keep them current. Only install plugins that you really need. Again, like I said, it's like being in Vegas or being at a candy store. If there are 56,000 choices, you'll probably add a couple that aren't really needed. But again, listen to Uncle Joe doing the scared straight thing. Try to keep them to as few as possible. Like for instance, back in the day, you would have to install a video plugin or audio plugin. Now WordPress puts a lot of that stuff in the back end and you don't have to worry about it. So you really don't need a lot of special functionality. I know someone reached out to me about a year ago at this meetup and they wanted something really specific. So they probably needed a premium plugin that does exactly what they needed, but they wanted to build it from scratch. That doesn't really make sense. So yeah, so just determine what you really need. Once you get up and running, you may say, hey, I need this plugin, and later say, oh, I don't really need it. If you're not using a theme or a plugin, get rid of it. Again, you don't want anything on your site. Even if, for example, if you have an unused plug that's deactivated on your site that you're not updating, it's still a hole that somebody could jump in through. So as a best practice, get rid of the stuff you don't need. Test your new plugins before you install them on your site. Again, as you get more and more plugins, there may be conflicts. You want to test them locally or in a staging environment before you install them. And use this process I'm about to show you to pick your plugins.
Okay, and Joe, I'm sorry, how do you test new plugins before you install them on your site? It's probably a stupid question, but
no, there's, hey, and one thing you'll know from me, or just in general, if you ask my kids, there's certain words we don't use. There's no such thing as a dumb question. So let's not use that term in this class. It's we're learning. So if and again, it just allows me to sort of get this. What you're talking about is something that we'll be able to talk about later. Okay. Earlier, Barb talked about, or someone talked about staging. Having a local or a staging environment. If you're on a certain level at SiteGround, it gives you staging as part of the package. You can spin up a version of your site and you could test it there. So you would install it, activate it, and then if your site doesn't blow up, you could say, hey, that works, and then you could install it over on your other site. Yeah, I would say it's an extreme case, but it could happen sometimes. I would say chances are nothing will probably happen, but again, the more and more plugins you get in, the chances. Or for instance, like if you install multiple calendar plugins, those plugins may conflict with each other and may cause the site to crash. So you just have to be careful about what you install, and having it in a staging environment or a local environment allow you to quickly activate it, see if it works, and then you can go ahead and do it over on your real site. All right, so how do you find the right plugin? We're in the repository, and this is going to Michael's question. Once you launch your site, you'll have the ability in your left-hand column. Appearance is where your themes are going to be. Plugins is where your plugins are. You can click on install plugins to see what's installed on your site already. If you use a wizard, and again, remember when we looked at GreenGeeks installed 3 things. They installed a form plugin and a couple of other plugins for us. If you hit install plugins, it would show you those. In this case, for us, once we spin up a site, we want to add new. It's going to bring you to this screen that you see here. You can search for plugins by keyword, author, etc. But what you have in the screen already is you start seeing the repository. And what you see here is plugins that are featured. That means WordPress or someone that's paying WordPress wants you to see these plugins. These are generally the ones that are most popular. If you click on the next one over, popular, it'll show you the plugins that have the most installs. Those are the ones that we know work. And those are the ones that most people have on their sites. So again, you can see Akismet is there. That's the one for anti-spam. I recommend you install that one. Again, we're going to get to the ones that I recommend, because you'll find if you have email or if you have feedback forms on your site, India and those kids that in Russia are going to get those bots sending you email that's going to flood your feedback forms. But Akismet's going to take care of all that for you. You don't even see it. It's going to put it right in. You can set the settings to put it right in the trash, or you can mark it and it goes to spam. So that's a great one. It's by Automatic. And as you can see, it's got over 5 million installs. It's compatible with the most recent version of WordPress. It was updated. This is an old slide, but when it was updated less than 8 hours ago. So again, we'll talk about how you pick it. But again, it gives you a quick list. And it works just like the themes repository. It has the ones that are recommended. These are the ones that the folks at Automatic recommend you have on your site. Then it also has an area for favorites. So if you're on WordPress.org, I would suggest creating an account, and you could select the ones that you have as favorites. So why would you want to do that? Say, for instance, you get into WordPress and you start building sites for your clients. You could have a list of favorites. And when you click on that, you could select all of them and install them at once, because they're your favorites. Here, you have to go through each time and go, Akismet, Jetpack, and then install. So favorites is a way for you to create plugins that you enjoy. For instance, I did a accessibility talk on the Able Player, which is an accessible video player for WordPress. And I created that one as one of my favorites, because that's one that I want to use and learn to use better. All right. So say, for instance, you wanted to use a plugin. How do you decide? Once you click on the plugin in that list that we just saw, it'll pop up a box like you see here. What are you looking for? One, you want to look for when was it last updated. You'll see in this repository, when it's one that's not updated, WordPress puts a little warning banner at the top that says this plugin hasn't been updated in so-and-so years, or how many months, or so that could be one red flag. The next thing you look for is how many active installations it has. Again, things that are more popular, they're more tried and true, the higher the installs are. You look at the reviews next. What are people saying about it? It gives you 5 stars down to 1 star. I tend to look at a few of the 5 stars and a few of the 1 stars and see if there's something that really sticks out or causes concern. Then the average rating. 4 or 5 stars are good. The funny thing is, like a lot of folks, Gutenberg was revolutionary in terms of it raised a ruckus. All the folks that have been in WordPress forever were up in arms. So if you look at Gutenberg, Gutenberg has a low star rating, but we know it's done by Automatic, et cetera, et cetera. So again, these are all tools that help you decide. You may decide that, 3 stars is okay for me. But again, these factors should go into how you decide on what you're going to use as your plugin. What version of WordPress is required? You want to make sure it's as recent as possible. Again, that means the developer is, like, each time WordPress is updated, they're going in and making sure that the plugin works with that version of WordPress. All right, so I mentioned earlier, when a plugin isn't updated, what do you see? There's a yellow banner here. It says this plugin hasn't been tested with the last 3 major releases of WordPress. So that should tell you, hey, I don't want any part of this plugin. All right. Then are there any other red flags? Let's see. Again, it was last updated 11 months ago. So the developer abandoned this plugin, it looks like. It's got fewer than 10 installs. That means the developer and probably a couple of friends in his apartment installed it. And then if you look at the version, it's 3 or 4 updates behind. So this will be a red flag for you not to install it. So again, look at those 5 different areas on the plugins that you need for your site or that you feel that you need. And if you have questions about plugins, you could shoot a question by me and I can let you know if I'm familiar with it, or somebody in the group can help.
So Joe, anybody can just create a plugin and throw it up on the repository?
Well, you can create a plugin. That doesn't mean it's going to be approved.
Oh, it has
They need
be
to review
approved
it.
first. Okay.
They need to review it.
Okay.
But again, once it's not as like themes, again, we saw that there were over like 120 themes, but there are 10,000 themes in the repository. Like they meet the basics for having a theme up there, but a smaller portion is accessible. In terms of plugins, there's 55,000, but how many are 5-star? How many get a high rating? Like, so it does take some effort on your part, just like we looked at certain features for our hosting before we decided. Look at these factors before you decide on your plugin. All right. So yeah, so that's plugins. Let me, I didn't bring the slide over for recommendations. Let me see if I could find it really quick. I'll just walk you through here and show you a few. All right, so we're on .org. Now the Gutenberg is becoming more prominent. You'll see they'll list some block enabled plugins for you to take a look at. But then again, they have some feature. Let's go inside of to show you how most of you, once you have your site installed, this is how you'll look for plugins. And again, I'm just going through the back end, but let me just all right, good. All right, so let's go ahead and all right. So I clicked on the plugins thing. This shows you what's installed on this instance of WordPress. Let me plus it up so you can see a little better. All right. So one thing that I was going to mention, if you don't have a staging environment set, and for instance, this goes to one of thing that you mentioned, Sally, I would not recommend doing a coming soon page. One thing to note is, and I think I sent you a link, your site's already live and it's been indexed by Google. So if you don't have any content on your site, it's going to rank it lower. So my recommendation is while you're working on it, if you don't have a staging environment, you can use a plugin like, I'm sorry, I'm giving a little break here, a standing break. My private site allows you to put a password on it. So it's behind a secure screen and you can work on it until you're ready to launch it.
Oh, so let me ask you though, when did you look at that? Because I just moved it over from the old former server to GreenGeeks this week.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I just did a Google search because I knew what your name was.
Yeah.
And although it was interesting because there's a whole bunch of savvy girls.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. I think there's a savvygirl.com that sells bags and things like that.
Oh.
So if that link that I sent you in the email this morning is your site, then I found it in just doing a Google search.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I was up early out to the dump and got back.
Oh no, but like I said, just check. But my point is if they migrated it this week, Google already indexed it. And it just says, an awesome site is coming soon.
They still indexed it.
Yes. So like I said, if you're starting, you should probably put up my private site or block it from search engines, and I'll show you how to do that. And I'll show you in a second.
Yeah.
So this is the plugin screen. This is what's on this site currently. And again, for Michael, who's on SiteGround, this, SiteGround Optimizer and SiteGround Security, those were plugins that were installed when I used the wizard. They've made a more concerted effort to be more secure. So they have their own plugin that does some things for you. And then the optimizer allows you to, clear your cache and take a look at the most recent version of it. So again, that's a more advanced topic. So ignore what I just said. But again, when you use a wizard, it installs some extra things on there if you really want to be clean about it. And again, in light of what I mentioned about plugins, you may want to go with no plugins and then go through some of the recommendations I'm going to give you and install them. But again, once you install a plugin, I would select all the plugins that you install and go enable auto updates and hit apply. What that's going to do is say, hey, WordPress, every time this plugin is updated. And the thing that's great about WordPress, and a thing that a lot of developers don't really understand about WordPress that are work in a more traditional format, is WordPress is constantly being updated. That's why they make a concerted effort to make sure these holes are being plugged all the time. So it's to your advantage to install them. And you see over here, once you've done that, this automatic updates column turns to disable automatic updates. You can turn them off if you want, but now they're all on. It shows you that they're all under auto update. And then again, if you want to add something new, and again, let's sort of go through, again, I'm sorry I didn't put the slide in, but these are some that I would recommend for you. I always recommend Akismet. This one, again, it checks your comments in your contact form for spam. And it gives you an option. Let me see if I can show you under my settings. Oh, let's just install it right now. All right, and then we activate it. All right, so once you activate it, it takes you to a screen like this. It says, hey, you want to set up your account. And for you, if you've never done it before, you set it up, it's free. You create a user account or something like that, and then it gives you a key. I've done it so many times, I just manually use a key that I've used before. All right, then once you've done that, you have some options that you have to decide on. You said, hey, show, you can, this is, I never select this, show the number of approved comments beside each comment author. You'll see that in the back end. I don't need to see that. You can silently discard the worst and most pervasive spam so you never see it. If you select that, Akismet's going to go in, it's going to see this email from Russia, boop, right into the trash can. And you can select always put in the trash can for review. You may want to see, because sometimes we all know that sometimes our email gets marked as spam, and or it goes into spam by mistake. I usually have this one selected, and you can always go back into the spam folder and see what's there and decide whether it should be blocked or not. Then these are some GDPR features. You can display your GDPR information underneath your comment forms. That was a big deal maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Some countries require that you, the cookie thing that you have to opt into at the beginning when you go to websites. That's what does that for you. So it's handled through Akismet. Again, if you don't use Akismet, there's a plugin that does that. But again, that's adding to your plugin list. And that's it. You save the changes, and now it's automatically doing that for your site. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. And again, this is a working site for me. So this isn't public. But let me show you this one thing. Hold that one question. Let's see here. All right, so under the reading settings, when you spin up your site, if you don't want it to be found, like we mentioned that Sally's site potentially is up already. If you don't have my private site in there, you can go ahead and at the bottom, you could say, hey, discourage search engines from indexing the site.
Oh.
And that will block it. But this is a warning. This is a warning from Uncle Joe. Make sure to turn it off when you're ready to go live. Because I mentioned my site that I did at work and the site that the vendor did. The vendor checked that box. And so July 15th rolled around, we launched the site and they're like, hey, why isn't the site being indexed? The vendor had no idea. I said, hey, check your reading settings. And they unchecked it. So yeah, so this is a way to block it as you're working on it. If you're really paranoid, put on the My Private Site and you could set a password. So only people with that username and password log in and they see your work in progress. Otherwise, just, and like I said, while you're doing that, just block it. So while it's in your under construction mode, which I never recommend doing, I'm giving you an option to work around that. All right, Sally, did you have a question? Did someone else have a question?
Yeah, sorry. You went, sorry, fast for me on the API key. Does it automatically give you an API key, or did you type that in off the top of your head?
Well, like I said, I use the Kismet all the time, so I use the same API key. When you set it up, it's going to generate one for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And like I said, if you have, like I have LastPass, so I save all that stuff. So I'm lazy, it speeds it up. So if you know you're going to spin up multiple sites for your client and you're going to have a Kismet as part of your plugin set, I would say you can use the same one over and over and over again.
So, hey, Joe, just a quick question on the privacy, My Private Site. So I did just install that version, and it's saying, My Private Site, site privacy, and then it gives you a check mark option for enable login privacy. And effectively, what this is doing is it's just limiting Google from indexing. Is that the only thing that's doing? So
well, no, you want to do that in conjunction with the reading box. You want to click that box under reading settings to make sure it's not being indexed. But you want to do this so no one can see your coming soon page.
Okay.
So you do those two things in conjunction. Like I said, you don't really need to do that. Technically, who's going to know your domain name? Like, for instance, Sally has one that is a popular, multiple people have Savvy Girl, but they may not know savvygirlmarketing.com. Yeah. So it may not be a big issue. Again, these are all options, but again, that's one way. That's not in my recommended list of plugins. That's just a way to hide your site if you have a coming soon page.
Okay, so just to follow up there, then I'm going to settings and there it is, reading. Okay, well, reading, got it. And just discourage the checkbox where it says discourage search ending. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I noticed yesterday, for whatever reason, I don't have a popular domain name, I thought, but it looks like there were 40 landings on the site yesterday alone.
Yeah. And again, we need to get some security on it and things like that, because you don't want somebody to hack in there at the beginning. Again, you want to have a strong password, a lot of those things. So again, a lot of folks, like, part of this is we want to get a site up and running, but we want to use it. So don't just do this and just leave it up there, because again, if we don't update things, if we don't put in the proper security, people are going to start pinging it. Because if someone finds your domain name, for instance, there's a website called, is my site WordPress, I think. My site WordPress. Yeah. So for instance, if you put your domain name in here, if someone knows your domain name, it'll tell you whether it's WordPress or not. So hackers are looking for that kind of stuff, and they put your site WP admin. And again, hopefully you've created a strict password. Because they're going to start pinging it and trying to get in there. So
I did that, and now this is what you see when you go to the website. It looks like, does that
right?
That look right.
Right.
Okay.
So they can't even see your coming soon page without having a username and password. Okay. So even you are going to have to use your username and password to get into your admin.
Get to the whole thing. That's why I wrote that stuff down.
That's great.
All right, Betty, you had your hand, or Oren? Go ahead.
Yes. Am I muted?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Joe, can we use Elementor and Divi on the same site?
They're like the calendar example I gave you. They do exactly the same thing.
But you them on different pages.
Divi is sort of the Microsoft. They're the biggest. They have the most installed there, but they're 100% premium. Elementor has a free version. But then to get a lot of the features that Divi has, or a lot of the advanced features, you want to go with Pro. So I would say Oren is, he wants to use Divi. You may want to go with that, because again, Divi has, you know, it's like apple pie or Dutch apple pie. Divi is a one-time license. You pay for it once, you get it forever. Elementor charges you every year. A lot of people got upset because Elementor's pricing model changed, and you get hit once a year. So if you go with Divi, you know you don't ever have to worry about updating your license. So those are some issues, especially like if
But
you're
can
trying
you
to
use them on different pages? I'd heard that you could use, like, if I wanted to use Elementor on a page and I want to use Divi on another page of the same site, that you could use the different things on different pages. You just couldn't use the same thing on the same page.
Ooh, I was gonna say, I wouldn't do that. Again, I would think that that's gonna conflict. You have the ability with both to do the same thing. So if you wanted to create a landing page, a website, a blog, Divi can do all that stuff. I mean, I don't think you need to, it's like alcohol and beer. Don't mix the two.
Yeah. Book maker.
All right.
Joe, does Divi have any websites that have an accessible theme?
No.
Okay.
And the one downside is with both the page builders, they make it easy to build. But if you're doing accessibility, if you want to make it accessible, those are probably, you're going to have to do a lot of work to fix it on the back end.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Yeah, the thing that's tricky though is that these page builders are so nice. You just drag, drop, move things around, and you're good to go. So again, what I'm trying to teach you are some of the basics or best practices. I always ask that you try to build something accessible, but it may not be for you, but who doesn't want their sites to be seen by as many people as possible, or many people clicking on their site? So you probably definitely should make it a part of your tool chest. So again, let me just jump back in here quickly again as we field more questions. So one, again, is Akismet. This one is sort of controversial, but not for me. I say Jetpack. I like Jetpack. It's sort of like Photoshop. It's got different plugins that do different things. Jetpack has changed over the last couple of years. It has some tools that are premium, but the basic set of tools will allow you to. It has brute force protection, so it has some security thing. It has a form built in. It has galleries and things built in. One thing that I like, I'm on WordPress.com. It shows you all of my sites. Let me see if I can. I'll show you. So for me, with business, all of my WordPress sites, if I use Jetpack under my certain login, it'll show. So I'm going to log out of this one. This was a demo site we just built. Actually, I need to save that password. I think I lost it already. All right, let me log in. All right. So as it loads, this is Jetpack, and once you've installed it, you get all of your sites in one spot. So these are all the sites that I've done in WordPress using Jetpack. So it allows me to jump back and forth between my sites. One good thing is that you see all of your themes in one place. So all across your sites, you can update them in one place. It shows you all of your plugins. And you could update them all across the network in one place. But again, that's not as big a deal now that you can do auto updates. Let me show you one thing also on themes. Again, if you're working with the theme and you have it installed, not on this one, you have the ability to tell WordPress. Let me show you on this one. So if you're using a theme like this, you can enable auto updates. So again, try to get those auto updating. So every time these themes or plugins are updated, it updates you for you automatically. So again, inside of, for your themes, if you look at them, you want to enable auto updates. So yeah, so on this site, for example, I have these different themes. I know I'm not going to use these, so I'm going to get rid of, the core themes. And you can delete them this way.
Joe, if I could ask another, maybe couple of questions.
Sure.
So what you're showing is that you have an ability to add multiple themes to one website. Is that?
Yeah, you get to pick, but only one can be active at a time.
Okay. And, and then the second thing, could you describe a little bit more about Jetpack? When I saw it, I thought perhaps it was like a equivalent to like a Google Analytics.
Well, it has inside of Jetpack, it has analytics. So it has its own. So when we went to my WordPress site, for instance, it has stats, and these are Jetpack stats. And again, this is my podcast site, but it doesn't get that many views only when I release something. But it provides you stats and insights as part of Jetpack. Again, it's not, Google is famous. And Google's algorithm is probably a little more accurate, but it gives you a pretty accurate, it's pretty almost one-to-one, like on one of our business sites, we have both. And the Google Analytics are a little bit more finite, but they're kind of similar. So I recommend Jetpack. Let's go back. I recommend having an SEO tool, all-in-one SEO or Yoast. Like a lot of people use Yoast. Yoast is probably the more popular one. Let's go to the popular ones. But one thing about Yoast is that when you install it, it has ads everywhere. So in your dashboard, it puts an ad at the top. And on if you're using, if you're, certain areas of your site, it's going to have something from Yoast in there, which is really annoying to some people, but it's pretty awesome. And again, if I click on popular, contact form 7, if you're not using Jetpack, contact form 7 is a popular one. Joe Dolson, who's a leader in accessibility. There's an accessible plugin. I think it's contact form accessible forms. That plugin, in addition to this one, makes your forms accessible. You can build accessible forms. So I would say use that one. Or again, if you're using Jetpack, it has a form built in. Yoast, Akismet. Some folks prefer the classic editor. Those that are new to WordPress may not know, WordPress made a big change with Gutenberg. It has a totally different style of editor. Let me show you what the classic editor looks like. Let's see here. And as I look, do we have any other questions or comments?
So Joe, are you suggesting to use the classic for now to start, and then maybe someday switch to Gutenberg or some other option?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what, do you feel, if you're comfortable, Gutenberg is totally different, but if you learn it now, as you begin, it should be fine. It's just a different editing experience. A lot of folks are used to,
You have a video where you talk about the editors so we can learn that. I'd also like to know about the page builders too, like Elementor versus anybody else. Like what?
Yeah, there's a Divi meetup here in LA. They're not as regular as they used to be, and then I have an Elementor meetup. And if you come there, you'll definitely learn a little bit about that. Let me show you here.
Thanks.
I'm going to go to one of our sites and show you how the classic editor looks. This site, we just built it, but again, it's based on our clients. The people that use our blogs, like our blogs have been around like 12 to 15 years. They've been around 12 to 15 years, and those folks are used to using the classic editor. So when we built this, and they wrote, like for instance, our main blog is sort of like the newspaper. We have an art section. We have someone that writes about our projects that are being built. We have someone that writes about the board. So we have various editors, but they've all used the classic editor. So again, as you can see, one thing that's neat about Jetpack, again, and this is not without this is a plugin. So instead of installing Monster Insights or Google's plugin, Jetpack already has your form, your SEO, some protection built into it. And you would see it in your dashboard like you have here. For instance, if you have Classic Editor installed, this is what you see. This is how WordPress has looked for the first 13 years of its existence. You edit this way. You have a WYSIWYG where you just install this way. Then if you're That's not it. All right.
What would you advise if we're going to jump in now, as opposed to having, been around for years with it?
I would say use Gutenberg.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it called Gutenberg Editor, or is it called something else?
Well, when you install WordPress, it's included automatically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to
No.
say, I have something called Gutenberg Blocks and Template Library that was added to as an add-in, plugin rather. Is that
Oh,
the same thing?
you installed that yourself or no?
I guess I did. I don't know. I have 14 plugins and I don't know how they all got here, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So you probably installed that, or that was part of the install package. You don't need that. Gutenberg is part of when you install WordPress in general. The thing you do need to do is, if you don't want to use the Gutenberg, you need to hit install the classic editor. Like I said, to me, the Gutenberg is more of an editing experience. It looks totally different. So I don't know if I have one and there is a way to turn it on under settings, but I don't want to waste your time too much here.
So,
Let me see here.
so Joe, because 2021 has the most accessible features, I thought of going with that for my site, but Alicia says Gutenberg is better for accessibility and all that. Or is it because she just prefers to build on Gutenberg?
Gutenberg is part of the core. So like I said, you don't need, you do need to choose a theme. So those two things are separate.
Right.
So I think what she's saying is that you're going to use a theme other than 2021. And that theme is going to leverage Gutenberg, which is already part of the core. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
so
it's like
you'll
the
probably use
engine-
Generate Press with the
Mhm.
Gutenberg editor.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so you need a theme, you need the close for Gutenberg, but Gutenberg is the way you enter content.
Got it.
You can add images, you can add videos. It's just different. Let me see.
Okay. So could I do the 2021 theme with the Gutenberg editor?
Yeah, but you said Alicia said not to do that.
No, she wants to use Gutenberg.
I know, but I think she's going to use a different theme. So it's up to you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah. So again, they're different things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so I can't show you. I'm kind of sort of, I could have got, I think because I installed. Yeah, I don't think I finished the setup, but so for instance, let's see. Yeah, this isn't gonna work because I'm in, yeah, let's see here. Oh, that's not gonna work. Yeah, so I can't show you Gutenberg because it's not on any of my sites right now, but it has a totally different experience. It's sort of like when we were setting up the theme for WordPress when it had the little flashing cursor and it was just a white screen. It's sort of similar to that. You sort of, each block, there's a block for the title and then you hit enter and then there's a block for the content. So it's all based on blocks. It's just visually different. Again, like I said, people that have been in the system or using WordPress a long time, they have a distinct opinion on it. But like I said, if you're learning, I would say you can use a Gutenberg editor at the beginning.
What is the distinct opinion that they have?
Well, it's a change. Like it's totally different from the way they used to do it. So some people don't like the change. But that's why the classic editor is still around. They wanted to deprecate it or get rid of it. But there's so many people that still prefer the classic that they stuck with it and they'll want to stick with it. But I do think the classic editor, I think they're going to get rid of it in the next 2 years. So, but again, it's just like hosting. You may want to learn using it, but like I said, if you're new to it, you might as well do Gutenberg. All right. So I sort of went through that. Let's get back to the plugin list. So I've given you a couple. I've given you a couple. I'm looking at the popular one. So again, you need a form of some sort. If you're not using Jetpack, I would say contact Form 7 with the accessible plugin, Yoast, or all-in-one for SEO. Again, both of these will give you a lot of choices. That I would say Jetpack can handle your statistics. You do want, and we're going to talk about this in the next session, you do want the ability to see how people are using your site. Most people don't give a crap. And we build it and then we expect people to just show up. There are some great tools, and we'll look at those next week, that will show you how people are using your site. And it's usually eye-opening for folks. They think, oh, I built this beautiful site. I love my menu. I love the colors I chose. And then people use the site and they don't even use it the way you think they should. So where I come from, again, in terms of how I teach or how I try to show people how to use WordPress, you want to have a user-focused site. You know, a lot of times we build it based on the colors we like, et cetera, but do people care what color? Like, again, I go back to the Amazon example. It's a butt ugly site, but boom, 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 3 clicks, you got something at your door. So you need to think about building your site that way. If someone is coming to your site to learn about you collecting clams on the beach, what do they really want to see? Do they want to see your bio? Do they want to see a contact form? Or do they want to see the clams? So again, you have tools in place, like statistics will tell you who's clicking on what page, how many people are viewing it. We do this at Metro all the time because there's a turf war. It's like real estate. Location, location, location. Everybody wants to be at the top of the homepage as big as possible, but nobody clicks on 80% of our project information. 90% to 95% of people use our site. They want to figure out how to go from Wilshire and Western to the San Fernando Valley on a bus. They don't care about all that other stuff. But if you go to our site, all that stuff's on our homepage because it's political. So I'm asking you, and I'm hoping that you decide when you're building the site, think like the user and try to build to the user. And then again, we'll look at tools like Hotjar and Google Analytics to show you how people are interacting with your site. All right, so as we go down the list, again, you need a spam protection. I use WordFence for security, which is right here. It's up there as well. And I'll share this as well. This provides additional security. Again, a lot of these wizards are installing the security plugin. WordFence is the top of the pile. So I would say don't use theirs and use this one. But again, just make sure you have a security plugin on your site, because again, you don't want somebody to inject malware or things like that. And WordFence is great for that. If you're moving from one site to another, again, use your host migration system or migration plugin or their service. But there are tools that does that. I would say stay away from it unless you're, like I said, pay somebody to do it. It's much less stress on you. And you want to just get a site where you can just log in and get to work. WordPress importer is if you're a little more advanced and you need to move posts and things from one site to the other, use that. That one is an optional one that you'll eventually run into as you get more experience in WordPress. You want a backup plugin. Updraft Plus is what I would recommend. And for this one, don't go, they're going to try to upsell you. And they're going to be annoying like Yoast and put ads in your, just dismiss them, stay with the free. It allows you to send a backup to your Dropbox, to Google Drive, because as you get into WordPress and you do more and more, you may crash your site and you need a backup just in case something happens. So Updraft Plus is one I recommend also. Again, when we looked at GreenGeeks, they use Lightspeed Cache. You don't have to worry about that. Like I said, once you get up over 20 and you start slowing your site down, that's an issue. You need a form tool. Again, Jetpack has it, but you may want to use Contact 7. And so I'm looking through, and so that's basically it. Make sure you have a backup plugin, a security plugin, SEO plugin, spam plugin. What else am I missing? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. And again, as you do more and more things, you'll go into the repository to find more functionality, and go from there. So I'm going to open it up now. I think that sort of covers everything I wanted to talk about themes and plugins. Again, try to use a repository if you can. Like I said, over the 3+ years we've done this meetup, people come to my meetup and say, hey, Joe, I bought a premium theme. It doesn't look like the picture, or I use a premium theme and it's too hard to use. Every theme is going to have, like for instance, if you use Divi, it has an interface on how to build the pages. Elementor's interface is totally different. Beaver Builder, those three page builder, all three are totally different visually. You can figure out the commonalities once you get in there, but for someone that's new, that's going to throw you for a loop. Every premium plugin, they usually build their own like little wizard to help you build the pages. It's totally different from another theme. One thing that and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we get into content, you'll have to really be cognizant of what theme you choose and how long you want to stick with it. If you're the type of person where I'm going to change every 6 months, you need to make sure that the themes you choose are sort of compatible, because you need to make sure that a post done in this theme will work as a post in this theme. And all the time, that's not the case. All right, so I'm going to open the floor up for questions or comments. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk more about the user experience, why your site should be accessible, why it should be usable. And then we'll start talking about posts and pages, tags, and categories, and start looking at content. Again, some of the tools that we talked about, we need you to install Grammarly on your site. Make sure you have the Grammarly plugin for your Google Drive. We'll look at writing content, because one great thing about Yoast is that as you write your content, Yoast will look at it and say, hey, this page is too long. This page isn't written for the right audience. You don't have enough headings. So it helps you write so that your pages rank higher. So it's a tool that helps you write. So I always laugh, because at my office, when I asked our new editors, when we switched over to WordPress, I said, you all should have Grammarly on your site. They were like, why do I need Grammarly? I can write, I'm college educated, or what, that was their excuse. But again, people don't write for the web. They write as if they're writing an article for a newspaper or a book. People read in small chunks. So you need to write for what, and Yoast is a great tool. It has, and let me show you if it's on this site. Nope, it's not. Let me see, it's here. All right, so, and I see a hand up. Go ahead and jump in. Is that Sally? Oh, just go ahead and start asking your questions as I do my thing here.
It's Barb, Joe, and I just want to, first of all, thank you. And you're going way past their time limit too. So thank you for extending that. But I just want to make sure I don't miss your future meetings. Are they always going to be this time on Saturdays, except for
Yes, we're going to try to do them. And I'm sort of holding my feet to the fire. We're going to keep going week by week until we get it done. So
awesome.
We've got 2 weeks before Christmas. Hopefully we'll be done by Christmas, and folks will have their sites up and running by January 1st.
Sorry. Thank you so much.
Hey, see, that's like, if we do what we're doing now, like, again, office hours, next week come in and let's make sure we do the 5-minute install and get it up and running. Like, we don't want, like, it's not a pet peeve, but I don't want, like I said, I don't like using certain words and I don't like excuses. Let's work together to get something up, because again, I want to free you up to create some magic. Like, I've seen Oren's work, and I know he's got a lot of great videos and things like that. He needs to be in the business of putting that on a page and getting that out. So let's not think, oh, we haven't done it in a year or whatever. Let's get it up and get these sites going.
Okay, make this.
I see hands up, so just go ahead and jump in.
Okay, my question is, my wife is on GreenGeek and I'm on GoDaddy, Slow Daddy, and and she gets the free, and I used to be with SiteGround last week, and I got the free certificates on SiteGround, and she's getting the free SSL certificates on GreenGeek. But GoDaddy, they want to charge an arm and a leg, and I'm trying to find out how can I get, either some very inexpensive SSL certificates for my site, or should I just go back to either go on hers with GreenGeek or go back to site?
Well, I mean, to me, the cheapest way or the best, and again, I think you heard last week, people have very strong opinions about GoDaddy to the negative, right. And I don't want to just, talk down about anyone. I mean, I would say everyone needs certificates, security certificates. So why would you want to pay for them? I would say pick a host. And like I said, right now, there's a lot of Cyber Monday, Black Friday holiday deals, buy a cheap host, get it for buy a host with the reduced price, do it for 3 years, and then you could try it there.
Right.
You could still, I would say, downgrade your GoDaddy to the cheapest in case you're still nervous about having it. Yeah, and then just build it somewhere else. And then once you get
I'm building it myself on .org, but the only problem I have is all 4 of my sites are back up now, but they're unsecured, and I just need to know how to put an SSL certificate on my sites without going through SlowDaddy.
Well, I think that's going to be an issue with, you're going to have to go through GoDaddy because that's your host.
So nobody knows. Well, no, there's a lot. I've seen some things out there that has SSL certificates, and some people on the internet said, well, you can get them free. But, but I don't know. I thought somebody on the community might know.
Well, the thing with that is if you're a developer, you can probably you could probably figure out how to install. That's a high end, that's an advanced. Right. Yeah, that's an advanced thing. Like I said, to me, it's easier to get it bundled in or pay for it. But I think that's more of an advanced option.
Have you heard of SSL.com?
Huh? Can you ask GoDaddy if they have Let's Encrypt? Like Let's Encrypt is free.
Yeah, I know. That's what they had on site.
Yeah, you should ask if they have. That's what.
They're not going to tell you. I had to figure out. I had a fight with GoDaddy for 3 weeks. For a long time just to get where I'm at. Because I knew I could do all this stuff for free without going through their whatever else and just throw my divvy on it. Once I got my divvy on it, well, now I can, really, really start to work. But I just want to make sure that the sites are up. But the problem I'm having is that, I don't want to pay an arm and a leg for an SSL certificate. So
how much are they charging for it?
Well, I guess for one site, they want to charge like $69 a year.
Yeah. See, like I said, that's how they get you. They want to upsell you on that stuff. Like I said, the only other solution is to hire a developer to install those certificates for you, which will probably be just as expensive.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'll go back. I'll get on GreenGeek with Betty.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I see Sally's hand is up and I saw another hand.
I'm wondering if GreenGeek could give you one for each site or just one.
Oh, you can get as many as you need. Like each time I spin up a site on SiteGround, for example, you get a certificate. Yes. Yeah.
The same with GreenGeek?
Yes.
I believe so. Like I said, it depends on your plan, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oren, I would suggest go to GreenGeeks, buy their plan for $5 a month, pay up front for 3 years. That's like $180.
We've already done it.
Okay, good. So you get a free, I think you get a free SSL certificate. I think if you get the lowest one, they're free. They have the premium ones that are more expensive. That's more for like if you have an e-commerce site. So, but yeah, talk to your rep because they've been really well. And then I'm saying, and also for anyone, I haven't gone to cheap domains, but I'm with Epic. I'm moving all my domains from GoDaddy to epik.com. They're only $8.87 for a domain for a year, whereas GoDaddy is like $16. But if you buy the package, if you're an agency, it's $120 a year, and then you buy your domains for $8.88, and you can, upsell the cost to your clients. So I'm just moving them all over to Epic because then I don't have to pay that $120.
Yeah, and
to get that cheaper price.
And on the Black Friday list that I shared with the group, I used Namecheap to get a domain name on Black Friday, and it was $3. Wow. And I got it for 3 years. So right now is a good time to reserve a name. Again, a lot of these companies are still, and again, that's why I do this in December each year, because this is the best time to try out something. So one note, by the way, on this site, I do have Elementor, but the standard editor is the block editor. So if you have this block editor, this is sort of how it looks. It gives you a little wizard when you jump on that talks about how to use it. But again, this is what you get. It's like a blank page versus, remember we saw the classic editor was totally different.
With Divi, you got like 40.
But so you just keep adding your blocks and you can add in, hey, I want an image. And so you basically focus on the content, and then based on whatever theme you have, once you save this and publish it, it'll be in 2021's look and feel. And with this, and this goes back to your comment, Sally, what you're probably doing with Alicia is going to be a more custom visual theme. With 2021, it's going to basically look like that theme, and you get to change the colors. So it really will look like 2021. So yeah, so that's the only thing. So again, you would just select your image. You can select an image from your media library. Let's see. And then, like I said, you just build your page. You can add your captions in. Then you can put in your category. So this is Gutenberg versus the other one. Let's just. All right. So any other questions?
Yeah, Joe,
Yes.
everything that you've been showing us, does it cross platforms? For example, if you open a web page on Windows versus Apple versus an iPhone versus Android?
Yes, that's part of the design process too.
Okay.
One great thing about the WordPress theme repository or themes in general, a few years back, making sure your theme was responsive and worked on mobile devices wasn't a feature that every theme had, but now most of the themes in the repository, I would say 99% are responsive. So that means once you install it and you focus on your content, when you launch those pages, I don't know if you remember when we demoed that theme, I looked at it for desktop, mobile, and then tablet. So it's built into the theme.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and Joe, are the theme, oh, so I had a question, I forgot. I thought it was the plugins will it tell, I didn't see anything there that had how much a plugin was.
Well, all the plugins in the repository are free.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so, but like I mentioned, like if you use the events calendar, the basic plugin, and you'll see this with the plugins that are really famous, or like Yoast, for example, they want you to go to premium to get more features. The basics will get you a lot of the SEO features that you need, but if you need local SEO or something more focused, you need to step up a level. So for instance, like Updraft, I mentioned stay with the free because they do have a premium version. A lot of the themes, that's their gateway drug. They get you hooked on their free version, and then you say, hey, I need more features, and you have to step up.
Okay, and I'm sorry, when I laughed before about you saying, for us to have sites up by the end of this, I haven't even started writing my content yet, and that takes time, and that's why I'm like, I'm not going to have all my content written.
Oh, that's fine. But this is, like I said, this is once we go through the 5-minute install, technically your site's up.
Okay.
And now it's just a matter of picking a theme, picking your plugins, and then I'll talk about, like I just brought a couple books from the office the other day. I had to get my new badge because we've been home but it's some things that I use, like when I first got into business, I was really into user experience, and let me show you, hold on.
And then while Joe's getting that, something that happened with me this week is I'm working with some students from California State University, Bakersfield, digital marketing students, and they had to create a landing page for a project we're working on. Well, they went to WordPress.com, they bought a theme for $45, and then I told them it has to be accessible. So then we had to switch to 2021, but we were so limited on what you could do in that theme. And anytime we wanted to buy anything to make it more accessible, you had to upgrade your subscription for everything. So, had they just gone to WordPress.org, it would have been so much easier. It took us 2 months to build a landing page when it should have taken us like a month.
Yeah, so hopefully by going, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, my sister had the same experience. She was like, a Fortune 100 company president and decided to go solo on a specific project. And she shelled out like $2,500 to a designer. And then she couldn't edit it herself, and it was too complicated, and she didn't know how to use it, and she didn't have the business to back it up. It's like, go free until you're profitable.
Yeah.
Is basically it.
Yeah. And again, the stuff that I'm showing you, a lot of folks have different skill levels, but I'm showing you the basics because, like I said, I'm a big fan of Why would you build a site or have somebody build a site for you and then you can't use it? You don't know how
Yeah,
to write a
you've-
post, and then you never write a post and your site just sits up there in the same state for years and years and years. So
and the users don't care so much about the bells and whistles.
they just want the
They need the
content to keep
information.
coming out
Yeah.
regularly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so next week we're going to talk a little bit about the next step. So basically we've got our 5-minute installs. We've got our WordPress sites installed. We're able to access them through the admin. We're thinking about themes and plugins. So next week, think about what you want your site to look like and try to choose a couple of ideas from the repository and install them. You don't have to activate them, just install them. And then in terms of the basics, let's make sure we have our security plugin, you know, the themes, the plugins that I mentioned installed. And then next week, we're going to talk about the thing that I'm most passionate about is making sure a site's usable. Usability and accessibility are sort of, they go hand in hand. Accessibility is making sure that your site is available and accessible for anyone to use. Like when the pandemic happened, a lot of people were really angry because we couldn't go out and go to dinner or we couldn't go to the market. We had to do everything from the house. How many websites didn't function then? Like my favorite ramen place, I think I mentioned last week, they closed for 2 months because they didn't have a way for you to do an online order and pick it up at the curb. Walmart was fascinating during this time. Their curbside and online ordering is amazing. You know, they had a process because Walmart is the biggest company in America. They have to keep that money. So they innovated because money was the bottom line. So it's important that when you build a site, that as many people as possible can use your site without impediment. Or, but what I learned when I first started as web, I used to think the same way. There's, and like I said, I studied a lot of usability at the beginning. When we did a redesign at our company, I brought people in, we did a survey, we brought people in to use our site. And we recorded them, we gave them surveys on questions to answer, like, hey, find a board agenda. And then we would watch them do that. Or, hey, pull up a map for the purple line and then watch them do that. You should start thinking like that too. Most people never test their sites. So how do we know if it's effective? A lot of times we build for us, like I said, if we're happy with it, we'll use it kind of thing. But then are people really looking at your site? A lot of times when we look at our Google Analytics, we're disappointed because only 5 or 10 people are looking at it. But I'm going to talk a little bit about things that we could do next week to improve that. So like I said, all my old books, I went and I was looking at them. So this one is like, Don't Make Me Think. It's like a common sense approach to usability. And then I used to get a lot of, I used to like this guy a while back. He would pick sites and tell you why they stunk or why they didn't work. Because how many of us have gone to like a fashion site and then it's got like a weird menu that you have to click on. Then you have to figure out how to interact with the menu to get to the page, or there's a movie, a flash animation that plays, and then you have to figure out where to go next. A lot of those sites may have been fun to build, but do they really meet a client's requirements? So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about what I talked about in the accessibility webinar I did last week, and then we'll talk about content. We'll talk again, I talked a little bit about how Yoast shows you how to write for the web. It gives you tips on a lot of us. Like for instance, I like big words. Yoast tells me, hey, Joe, you need to write it for a 5th grade audience kind of thing. So we'll talk about those kind of things. And then we'll look at, we can even look at the like optimizing your images for the web. A lot of us, one of our departments, they go right from their camera to the web and they upload 25 megabyte files. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can optimize things, how WordPress does that for you, and just answer your questions and keep moving forward. Let me see if there's any other questions or comments before we sign off here.
Titles of your books you flashed up really fast?
Say again?
Write them down.
Okay, like I said, these are like 15 years old. They're probably not findable,
Wait,
but
we
this
could
one is
write
like
it. It was
websites
really
at work. This one's like websites at work. And again, he looked at some sites. And again, this is looking at sites from 15, 20 years ago. And so technology's changed. And then I think he had another one that's like son of websites that suck or something like that. This is like a usability one. Like I was really into Nielsen Norman, who's like the father of usability, and he's still around and they have a certificate that walks you through a lot of the usability experience. But again, I just want to share with you some of the basics that you should consider, because again, I'm pretty sure most folks never think, hey, how is somebody going to use my site? when they're building a site. We're just really focused on getting it up and blogging. So we'll look at that kind of stuff.
Hey, Joe, can you, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Lynn, go ahead.
You mentioned Grammarly and us having that installed on our website. Is that a plugin? I'm not finding it anywhere.
It's no, it's not a WordPress plugin. You see it on.
So just on our computer system, not on the.
Yes, it's a standalone.
Okay.
It's Grammarly.com. They have a free version and then they have a paid version. But
Yeah, and
I
again,
checked on Black Friday. they didn't have
only
it
do the
available.
free. Only do the free for right now. Like I said, we don't want to pay for anything during this class. And then the great thing is, if you use Google Chrome, just go to extensions and install the extension. It has a free extension. And what that does is, as you write, you can write in Grammarly, or if you use Google Drive, for example, and use Google Sheets. Again, if you don't want to pay for Microsoft Word, I would suggest if you have a Gmail account, you already have Google Drive. It has a free version of Word, which is Google Sheets. It has a free version of Excel, which is Google Sheets. It has a free version of PowerPoint, which is Google Slides, and it allows you to do a lot of this writing. And if you're using Google Drive and Google Sheets with that Grammarly plugin, it checks on your screen as you write. So again, we want to make sure that our grammar is proper and we're not doing typos. Because again, I was going to show a couple of slides and I'll try to dig some up for next week. There are websites and famous websites like the BBC, like some of these typos are just hilarious because people are writing and not spell checking. All right. Any other comments before we wrap up and get back to our Sundays?
Joe, can you repeat the name of your cheap domains website?
Oh, it's called namecheap.com.
Namecheap.
Yeah, and I think they had a black, let me share my screen and see if I can share that with you.
Do you have to keep your domain with them for 3 years to keep that price?
It depends. I think the special may be for 1 year. And then the great thing, let me show you, and then this is, again, with anything that you do, with any of these Black Friday sales, make sure you read the fine details. Because again, like see right here, it says, oh, that's not the Black Friday sale. It looks like the Black Friday sale is off, but it shows you how much it is for 8 years. And it, like I said, it's up to 34% off. But the great thing is like when you, let's just do a quick search. All right, let's go. Sally, I'm going to use you as a.
Okay, that should be taken. I bought it, but.
All right, but for the purposes of this, all right, so sally.thune.com is taken. And again, for those that, that were following along with what Sally said, certain themes are already, people have already bought it and they're sitting on them, or they're, so you can make an offer to that person, but a lot of times those are high prices. So for instance, for this, for example, if you're looking at getting a .net or a .com, it shows you what it's going to be the first year. And a lot of these, again, I would look up and see if there are any still any cyber, like I think we missed the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but there still may be some holiday prices. Like for instance, they give you a discount for the first year, and then underneath it tells you what it's going to cost the next year. So just be careful with that. Again, with most .coms, they'll probably stay the same. But for me, for example, I reserved a .store because it was like $1 or something. And then the next year was $25 and I canceled it. So yeah, so just keep an eye out on that when you reserve it. And again, I love this one because once you reserve a domain, and I didn't want to get too advanced, but say for instance, you spin up a site on your host with a 5-minute install, but you don't know what you want to call it. You can start with a temporary site and then point the domain later. And the great thing about this is that once you have a domain name on SiteGround, for instance, it says, hey, on your domain, put in these 2 lines, these two addresses, you put them in Namecheap, and then it redirects that domain name to your site and you're done. It's sort of like having a house being built out in the, on a patch of land. Mm-hmm. It's a house. It doesn't exist until it gets an address on it and you pull your car into the driveway. So you buy a domain name, it doesn't have a house, and you have a host, which you create your house, you have to point that domain name. A lot of times the host will allow you, they have that service as part of the bundle and you can do that. but you won't get a super discounted price.
Is
Like I
that
said,
what they call-
I think WordPress.com is $18 a year for .com versus, you know, $888. So it's just up to you. Like I said, if
So
you
is
want the
that-
convenience of all-in-one, you might want to go with your host. If not, it's an extra step to do it on your own, but it is doable.
And the one thing I've seen on GoDaddy is you can sell your domain if you want, and it tells you what it's going for. Like I own like 45 domains for businesses that I was eventually one day going to start. And I haven't seen that on any of the name domains.
Cool. All right. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, real quick. A really great substitute for the Microsoft Office suite is openoffice.org from Apache, and it's free and it gives you all the same stuff and you don't have to pay for it. And it's a great program.
Awesome. Yeah. And like I said, next week when we do content, we'll just look behind the scenes really quick and take a look at Google Drive. Again, like I love it. It gives you a lot of space. It has Google Photos. It has a lot of things that you can use. YouTube is part of the package. So all of that stuff is under one roof. So it's a really good place to have things centralized.
Can you repeat that North Hollywood, which is what?
Openoffice.org, and I dropped the link into the chat. If you want to just like click on it, it'll take you right there.
Okay.
Openoffice.org.
And you can save the chat too. Joe, do you want to tell them how?
Oh, sure. Just under in the chat area, there's a triple ellipses in the right-hand corner. You just click on that and you could save your chat.
What did you do?
How do you save the shit?
And then it will show you a folder. You hit this folder and it saves it somewhere on your computer, usually under Zoom, the date to find it. Joe, this was awesome as always. Thank you. I'm feeling less
I can't. I don't know.
stupid.
Yeah. Like I said, it's, you know, an analogy I love to use as we finish is when my kids were young, we used to watch a lot of Disney movies, and Kung Fu Panda was one of their favorites. And there's a scene where I guess his dad is a duck and he's known for this soup, and people come from far and wide. And he said, "Dad, what's the secret ingredient to the soup?" And the dad pulled him aside and said, "There's no such thing as a secret ingredient."
Mm.
So with WordPress, that's sort of the approach I take. It can be technical, and you know, we all want to position ourselves as subject matter experts. So I'm evil. I'm telling you what's behind, you know, I'm the magician that's showing you how to do the tricks. Because again, if you keep it basic, you can get up and running, because a lot of your frustrations are getting your site up and running to begin with, or getting your content in, or picking a theme. So if you can get past those hurdles, then you can focus on making something beautiful or making something interesting. So until next time, have a great weekend, folks. I'll try to share this video as well as last week's video. I'll put up a notice for next week's. Again, we're going to do content, usability, things like that. Join me at 10 o'clock next week for office hours. So come early to the link that I'll share, and we could sort of look at what you got. And then at 10:30, we'll start on the next session. And I'll see you then.
Very helpful. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
And reach out to me. Shoot me an email or something if you need to hit me with a question, or put your question in Meetups if you want me to address something next week.
That was amazing. Thank you so
Have
much.
a great rest of the
Great.
weekend.
Okay, thanks,
And
folks. See ya.
you. Bye.
I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
Wednesday, Joe.
Huh?
We enjoyed Wednesday on the accessibility.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that
Good.
was really nice.
Yeah, like I said, you know, this is sort of how I give back. So I love doing it. So
Yeah, it's wonderful. We appreciate you.
I know, I appreciate.
rest of the
I like that chin, brother.
Oh, I know it's going there. I know I haven't dyed it in a while, unfortunately, but
No,
yeah,
no, I'm just like the
Oh, no,
growth.
don't change it.
No,
I know. And it
No
looks,
doubt.
I know it looks extra special in high definition.
Well, look
All right,
at
see?
this. Look at this.
Well, I know that's the difference. I noticed you. That's the difference from the last time I saw you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. You two
All right,
take
God
care. Have a
bless.
great weekend.
Okay,
You
bye bye.
too.